I'm going to call tonight's meeting to order. All rise for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Now can we have roll call?
Councilmember Murray.
Present.
Councilmember Ryan.
Here.
Mayor Matsumoto Wright.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Wall.
Here.
Councilmember Woodard.
Sorry about that. Here.
And Councilmember Sonmore.
Here and joining remotely via teleconference.
And Councilmember Payne Donovan asked to be excused.
Move to excuse Councilmember Payne Donovan.
Second.
So it's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? He is excused. Thank you. Okay. City Manager, do we have any late changes on the agenda?
Thank you, Mayor. We would like to request that we add item number 10 for changes to the interlocal agreement with Snow 911. So we would add that item as number 10 on your agenda this evening, and then move the other items down. City Manager's report would be 11, Council Liaison reports 12, and so on. Yes.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Move to add the review and vote on amendment to Snow 911 interlocal agreement to the agenda as item number 10, and move everything else down.
Second.
So it's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right. We have changes on our agenda. So next is public comments.
Nope. Sorry.
Oops, are we-
Sorry. It's on calendar. Oh, I'm sorry. My bad. I'm going to turn this off.
Next is public comments. City Clerk, do we have anyone signed up?
For general public comment, first we have Sally Buckingham. You have 5 minutes to speak. Are you able to go over to the microphone?
My name is Sally Buckingham. I live at 21708 48th Avenue West here in Mountlake, Terrace. And I'm here today to advocate the road construction on 48th and 216th. I was involved in a very bad accident at that intersection a little less than 2 years ago. I'm hoping that with this new construction, that you make it a safer intersection. It's been on my mind ever since the accident, and I hesitate going through that intersection every time I leave my home, that I am safe. So I just hope that you advocate for a safe intersection. A four-way stop hasn't worked. A two-way stop hasn't worked. So in this construction, I hope that you really look at it so that it is safe for going east and west, north and south. And in that accident, I was going south on 48th, approaching my home. Thank you very much.
Next, we have Michael Downey.
Mine will wait till new business. I'm sorry, I just understood what I was writing.
Okay, thank you. Are you wanting to speak at the public hearing? No other comments have been, no one pre-registered for comment, and other comments I provided to you.
So if there are any other comments tonight to speak for items that are not on the council agenda, please let us know. Okay. There is, so new business is just for city council members to bring items up. So if you want to speak on an item that is not on the agenda, this is going to be the sole opportunity this evening to do that. If you want to speak on an item that is on the agenda, you'll have an opportunity at that point. So if you'd like to speak now on an item that is not on the city council's agenda this evening, this is your opportunity.
My name is Michael Downey. I live at Young's Mobile Home Park, right down the road. Mountlake Terrace bills my park for water, sewer, and what do they call the other one? I forget. Anyway, and the park bills all of us individually. Because of that, I cannot get my 30% discount on my water rate. I get it on my electric. I get it on the property taxes, but I can't get it through my water rate because Mountlake Terrace bills the park. And the park bills us once a month instead of every other month like everybody else in Mountlake Terrace pays. Please do something about this. I could use it. That's it.
Thank you.
No one else has signed up, and the written comments I provided to you will go on the record.
All right, thank you very much. Okay. So next on our agenda is the consent agenda. Mayor Pro Tem Wall.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Move to approve the consent calendar items A through D.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next is the proclamation for LGBTQAI plus Pride Month. And let's see, is William reading this one? This is the chair of our DEIC Commission, William Page.
Okay. All right, good evening, Madam Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, our city council members, city manager, deputy city manager, and city clerk. You know, proclamations are great. You know, I'm really enjoying being able to be a part of them because this is the fun time, you know. And the reason why they're fun is because, you know, the city gets to acknowledge a person, persons, or group for something significant that they've done for the city. This is fun, right? And it's supposed to be fun. Today, I get to say thank you to the Myers, Elliot, TC, and Hannah for what they gave the city a year ago this month. So what did they do? In the face of hate language being hurled at them over their fence, hateful words defacing their property, not once, not twice, but 4 times during the month of June, they showed Mountlake Terrace how to come together as a community. And what did they do to deserve this treatment? Nothing, but to display their pride colors on their own property. I like to say, I was thinking about how to put this together here that I wanted to say to them. And I like to say that they gave us some show and teach moments. They showed us how to not let hatred win. They showed us how our police force goes to work to investigate and defeat hate when presented before them. They showed us how your council, and your DEI commission will respond when you, the community, are confronted with hate. They taught us how to defeat persistent hate with persistent love. They taught their neighbors and community how to be on the right side of history by letting them pitch in and digging in and fixing what others tried to break. They taught us all how to defeat hate by not cowering, not being silent or accepting fate, but by teaching us that love always wins. You know, when members of our community are struck by hate crimes, I think everyone, or mostly everyone, takes it personal, and they should. I remember a year ago this month, the police took it personal. I was right here that week of the council meeting when the city council took it personal. And those of you who were there that might remember, I took it very personal because Hannah Meyer, at the time, was one of your DEI commissioners. So yeah, I took it personal. We all did. So without further ado, Hannah, TC, and Elliot, I'd like to read the Pride Month Proclamation for you. City of Mountlake Terrace Proclamation, Pride Month. Whereas on June 28th, 1969, New York City police raided the Stonewall Inn, a gay club located in Greenwich Village, and sparked a riot leading to 6 days of protests and violent clashes with law enforcement known as the Stonewall Riots, which later served as the catalyst for the LGBT plus rights movement. And whereas, in honor of the 1969 Stonewall Riots and the subsequent first Pride March in New York City in June 1970, each June, Americans come together to celebrate and honor the LGBTQ plus community. And whereas, since the Stonewall Riots, the LGBTQ plus community has achieved significant progress, including the right to marriage equality, state and federal workplace protections, and the Hate Crimes Prevention Act. And whereas we celebrate and reflect upon the courage and accomplishments of the LGBTQ plus community who continues to fight for progress towards securing important rights and freedoms to live freely and authentically. And whereas the LGBTQ plus community has and continues to face systemic discrimination across the United States. And whereas the city of Mountlake Terrace values diversity and inclusion and is committed to equal rights, justice, and opportunity. And whereas the city of Mountlake Terrace recognizes the important contributions of its LGBTQ plus residents to the city's history, culture, economy, and civic life. Now, therefore, not I, Mayor Kyoko Matsumoto Wright, on behalf of the City Council, do hereby proclaim June 24th as Pride Month. Signed this day, 6th of June, 2024, at the City of Mountlake Terrace, State of Washington, Mayor Kyoko Matsumoto Wright. And I'm going to give them the floor to say whatever they want to say.
You guys want to give some stuff? Yeah. Hi, my name's Tiff. Elliot's a little shy, but she wanted to make sure that everybody got a pride flag on the council tonight. So thank you very much for recognizing our family. You know, despite the events that happened last June, I think that there was some good that came out of it. We got to really get to know some of our neighbors that we didn't get to know during COVID that moved in. And they became really good friends. Elliot was really good friends with their son, Teddy. So yeah, it's just, you know, it's really brought our community together, and it's made us feel even stronger about our decision to move to Mountlake Terrace 12 years ago now. So thank you very much, and happy Pride to you all.
Okay, so now we're going to have Councilmember Steve Woodard do the proclamation for Juneteenth.
Thank you, Mayor. I cheated. I looked ahead. That's why I'm standing here now. That said, let me have Mr. Lott come up, and our Planning Commissioner come up, and our DEI. And we also invite anyone who identifies as Black or African American to join us as well. It is not our right to decide who you are, but we know we are community. So let's stand together. That said, we are actually making sure that we honor Snow Isle today, which is what they represent on some levels, which is to first just remind us that not this Saturday, but the Saturday after, the 15th, in collaboration with our DEI, with our city, with another program, Access Program, or Access Project Program, or something like that. Sorry, I'm on that board. I should know the name of it. And Project Girl, I believe, are the sponsors. I don't see anybody else on here because I forgot my glasses over there, so this is going to be real interesting. That said, I hear they got a number of panels and just a lot of information to learn about Juneteenth, which this proclamation. That's my way of saying, if you really want to learn about Juneteenth, we should see you on the 15th for more than just a day, Juneteenth. That said, here's our proclamation from the city of Mountlake Terrace.
Your
Juneteenth,
glasses are coming.
Independence Day. Y'all are rock stars. Thank you. I was going to make it work, but it was going to be fun. Thank you. Hey, I can see. Whereas President Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation took effect on January 1st, 1863, stating in part, quote, that all persons held as slaves, unquote, within the rebellious states, quote, are and henceforth shall be free, unquote. And whereas it was not until June 19th, 1865, that the enslaved peoples of Galveston, Texas, were at last informed that, quote unquote, in accordance with the proclamation from the executive of the United States, all slaves are free. Whereas this day and event recognized as Juneteenth marks the effective end of chattel slavery in the United States, further codified within the ratification of the 13th Amendment to the Constitution of the United States on December 6, 1865, and whereas Juneteenth is the oldest observed celebration of the emancipation of enslaved persons in the United States, and whereas Juneteenth National Independence Day became a federal holiday on June 17, 2021, and the crowd goes wild, as well as a legal state holiday in Washington on July 25th, 2021. You better absolutely applaud on that. No? No applause? Didn't know this was audience participation, did you? Whereas on May 2nd, 2022, the Mountlake Terrace City Council adopted Resolution 863 establishing Juneteenth as a legal city holiday. Thank you, Council. Oh, well, thank you very much. Whereas recognizing Juneteenth commemorates African American freedom and celebrates the successes gained through education and greater opportunity, and whereas the city of Mountlake Terrace will co-sponsor Juneteenth more than a day on June 15th through its Snow Isle libraries at the Mountlake Terrace Library right across the hall there and on the Civic Campus. And now, therefore, our mayor, Kyoko Matsumoto Wright, and on behalf of our city council and myself, do hereby proclaim June 19th as Juneteenth Independence Day. Signed this 6th day of June 2024 at the City of Mountlake Terrace, State of Washington. Thank you, sir. And you are welcome to say some words yourselves.
On behalf of Snow Isle Libraries, we gladly accept this proclamation. We love working with the City of Mountlake Terrace and their commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. And come out to Juneteenth. It's more than a day. It's going to be a great event. Learn the culture and come do community with community.
I just want to second what Terry said and offer my thanks to the council and the mayor and the city for supporting this event, and thank you all.
All right. You want me to say something? I will. This is going to be fun. You know, what's exciting about it is this is the first time Mountlake Terrace has done this. It's been a whole lot of firsts going on the last few years here, so we should all be excited as a community. And this isn't an event just for people of color, it's for the community. So, you know, tell your friends, get out there, come check it out. And we're going to have some high school kids from Mountlake Terrace on the panel discussion, sitting down with some of the Snohomish County leaders. So it's not going to be just about the adults. Come out here and support the kids also. We've got free food trucks, free food trucks, free food trucks. And so it's going to be a good time. All right.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so we are going to do a quick photo, but we should pause and I should be more respectful and let you all know it's Isaac who is actually on our planning commission. And for those of you who don't know, city council, we get to stand up there and look good, but they get to be doing all the dirty work that then comes to us to then kind of play with it a little bit and go, oh, thank you, planning commission. So thank you for that work, sir. Let's do a quick photo.
Thank you. Thanks. Thank you so much. Thanks, Jerry.
Yes, appreciate you.
So now, we're going to move on to the review, public hearing, and vote on ordinance for property acquisition for Main Street, Phase 2, with our city engineer, Rich Meredith. And I see Kinnan here, too.
Good evening. My name's Rich Meredith. I'm our city engineer, and I'm here to start off our presentation with Kinnan. We're talking about the ordinance for acquiring property, but it's been some time since I've been here, or since anybody's really given you an update about where we are with the Main Street project. So I wanted to start off with where we are with that. All right. So the Main Street project originated from actually the town center vision. The town center vision done back in 2007 was where Mountlake Terrace took a long-term look at the area that was going to eventually have a light rail station and figure out how we would develop this into the center, the place. We wanted placemaking. We wanted this to be the focus point of our city. So in 2007, we came up with our plan and our zoning codes, updated that in 2017 based on the progress that we had seen in that. The Main Street Revitalization Project was our effort to bring that vision to life. So what we started to do there was in 2013, we looked at the entire area and focused on what we called Main Street, which is made up of 236th and 56th and some of the connector roads, 234th and 232nd in there. This is a very large project, so we chose to break it up into phases so that we could, obtain funding for smaller pieces and start building pieces of it so we could see what's happening, see the final product while we're working on the design and the funding for the other phases. So I'm sure everybody's familiar with 236. That was our phase 1. It turned out very beautiful out there. We learned a lot of lessons. That was completed around 2020. We started on the design of phase 2, and at that time we didn't have enough money for construction. Lots of things were going on. COVID kicked in around 2020. So the project, while it was trying to move forward, it was moving forward in kind of a reduced state, and then it was just put on pause. So when I came on board at the end of 2022, we basically reevaluated the project for the year of 2023. We tried to apply for a RAISE grant, but we weren't successful in 2023. So, but we have a good, strong application for it this year, and we should find out by the end of this month whether we're successful or not. What we've done with rebooting the project is we kind of reevaluated what we were doing, the scope of the project. I think the earlier iterations of the design had curb bulbs in 56th and narrowed it up in some spots. Looking at what made it more competitive from a safety standpoint and for the construction funding, the design of 236 with bike lanes and a center turn lane actually works out better. So we modified our design on 56 to be similar to 236 with bike lanes and center turn lane, and focus that as our main street. And then that gives us the opportunity to use more calmer methods on 232nd and 234th, which leads me into, it was also a good opportunity to start planning for phase 3. Now, phase 3 is in our zoning code. That's the new roadway for 57th. There's also supposed to be a pedestrian-oriented access at about 233rd. What we decided was that if we can get the funding for the pre-design of 57th, that would give us an opportunity to re-engage the community, because after, it's been over 10, 15 years, we figured it would be good to re-energize the ideas, see what the current state of art is, and it would make it easier, I think, to help focus on getting these blocks redeveloped if we actually had some bookends about what we wanted the road to look like. So probably in July, I think we're going to start it in July, but the public process is probably going to be more in August or September. We want to engage the community on what we want 57th to look like, and we want to do up to a 10% design for it. And that's going to be something that we hope we can get as much input as we can, because I think this would be a wonderful project. We are looking at a pedestrian-oriented corridor, but I think adding the connections in there is going to make the whole area more accessible, a lot more connections for active transportation. It's going to be a real benefit once we can get that started. But our focus tonight is on phase 2. We want to get 56th Main Street done, and we want to get it's going to include the connections on 232nd and 234th. As part of our vision for Main Street, we're going to acquire a little bit of right-of-way on either side. We're looking at about 2.5 feet on either side. What that does is that gives us an initial 5-foot amenity zone, planting strip, whatever you like to call that, plus a 5-foot sidewalk. And as development happens, we have in our zoning code the criteria in there to help gain another 5 feet, so we have a 10-foot clear walking path for pedestrians. So the city project will, buy the first 10 feet, basically, develop the first 10 feet, and then developers, as they come along, they'll have to build their frontage to our current zoning code to provide that extra 5 foot. So there'll be some extra parcels on the corners where we have storefront corners, But other than that, the right-of-way we're looking for on 56 is about 2.5 feet on either side. As part of our funding, some of the previous grants that we have some restrictions. We're going to have to obligate those funds. We're hoping to get them obligated by the end of this year, or we risk losing them. So that's part of the reason that now that we've got our consultant on board and our team on board, we're trying to pick up where we left off of the project before to get to a finish line, hopefully by the end of this year. I'm probably going off topic here. So here's some of the target milestones that we're looking at. We just finished the 60% design. I forgot to mention that as part of our reboot, we re-advertised the project for a design team, and our previous design team, they didn't compete in that one. So we have a new design team, the Petite. They've done a lot of work for us and around the region. I've worked with a lot of them for years. They're a very high quality firm, and we've been very happy with our results from them so far. So they started the first of the year, and we got a 60% set of design plans in April. So that's moving forward. The right-of-way acquisition normally takes 12 to 16 months, but because we'd already started the right-of-way process back in 2022, we were able to pick up where we left off. We have to redo a lot of the appraisals and title reports because it's been a couple years since then. But for the most part, that is moving along quickly, which is part of the reason that we're here tonight. Again, the RAISE grant, we're supposed to hear by June 28th whether we're successful in gaining that or not. And then this ambitious schedule that we have, we're expecting the 90% design plans on July 8th. So things are moving forward. We have some really good plans that we're developing, and we're on track to get that done by the end of the year. Critical path item is, again, why we're here tonight. It's the right-of-way acquisition. We want to make sure that everybody's treated in a fair manner. There's a lot of regulations on how we handle that, and we want to make sure that we follow all of them. Let's see, I'm going to, next slide. Here's an example I threw in here for from our 60% plans, just to demonstrate that the old plans had some curb bulbs on either side of the roadway, and the new ones is the same cross-section as what we see on 236. Some of the other design components that we included in the project that weren't in there before, we're updating some of our water quality treatment in the storm drainage. The new ecology regulations want you to treat more of the water, and we agree. And so we're actually trying to go above and beyond what the minimum requirements are, because as the city, it's, we're kind of setting the standard and the example. If we can't meet our own standards, how can we enforce it? So we're working on better water quality treatment facilities in there. We're looking forward to the future. We're adding capacity for some EV charging stations, and we want to make sure our light poles are 5G capable. That's another project down the line, but this will all be included with our project. And we're also making sure we follow some of our complete street principles. We want to update, we're going to add a new water main in there to upsize that, so we have the capacity that we need for the new development that we're going to have here. And same thing with the sewer repairs. We want to go through and repair and reline our sewer system so that, again, we have the capacity and the infrastructure in place to support the new development. And the time to do it is when we're rebuilding the whole road, so we don't build a new road and then tear it up in 10 years. Here's an example of our right-of-way plans. I highlighted in red, this example is 232nd and 56th. but I highlighted in red the additional right-of-way that we're contemplating. You can see the thin strip is about 2.5 feet wide, and the diagonal blocks are the storefront corners. Part of the vision of town center is the storefront corner concept, where we're going to have commercial on the corners. We want to have room for people to wander around and not get hung up in, or have space for people to congregate at the corners and not be blocked by people waiting to cross the street. Let's see, I'm going to move on. Here's kind of the right-of-way acquisition timeline that we're looking at. As I said before, we started in 2022. In 2023, as we realized that we wanted to make some revisions to the design and reboot the process, we put the right-of-way process on hold. In 2024, we restarted the design, and we're restarting the right-of-way process now. We've sent out notices to property owners already, just to let them know that we're actively out there making appraisals and starting to put together offer packages. And then by August, we're looking to start looking at if we're not able to be on the path to get the right-of-way process taken care of. In order to stay on schedule, we need the ability to be able to start a condemnation process. This is going to be a last resort because we're really hoping that we can get a lot of this taken care of without going down that route. And then our goal is to complete our right-of-way acquisition by the end of the year. Again, if we get our RAISE grant, we want to be able to obligate funds first quarter of 2025.
All right, so I'll give you a little bit of an overview of the acquisition process. We've done this before. We've worked on in phase one, where we went out and we negotiated with folks, and then sometimes it wasn't successful, but at the end of the day, we did not take any case actually to trial. Everybody ended up working things out, and that was very successful from my point of view. One of the things that everyone needs to remember, all the folks that are in the audience tonight, is that we will do everything we can to try and accommodate some sort of a resolution short of actually filing a case. But if we have to file a case in order to meet the project deadlines, we can't risk literally millions of dollars on this project, which comes out of the taxpayer's pocket at that point. So I'll give you a quick overview of the process, and also let everyone know this in the audience that might be affected by this. During the negotiation phase, if it appears that there's just disputes over how much is owed and things like that, we are going to be offering them and proposing what's called an early possession and use agreement. The early possession and use agreement allows the city to move forward in the process while preserving all of their rights to challenge the amount of compensation that they are being received. So it's an easy way for us to proceed and then still allow them the opportunity to challenge the compensation in the process. Where's the page down? The arrow. Okay, thank you. All right. First of all, as part of the overview, we already went over the site selection, what's happened here and everything else, and so Rich did that. Pre-litigation negotiations, that's already started. Letters have been sent out to folks explaining to them what's happening with the project, how much land we're going to need. We've sent everyone notices on that. It's also been published in the paper. One of the important things about that is that it shows them what's actually being impacted. A part of this pre-litigation negotiation is that we are doing appraisals. Everyone has a right to accompany the appraiser when they go on their property to evaluate it, and we would encourage them to do so because they know their property better than anyone else. And if something's going to be impacted, it's their opportunity to explain that to the appraiser. If there's a problem, whatever else, that's how we come up with our offer. Unlike people want to dispel any myth, when you're acquiring property as a government entity, we have to pay fair market value for the property. And in situations like this, where there's a little strip of land taken, we pay for the property that is taken, as well as, quote, any damage to the remainder. Now, most of these properties are subject to redevelopment because of the zoning and things like that, so there likely will not be any damage to the remainder, but we still have to pay the price per square foot for the property taken. We have to repair certain things, and that's all part of this process. The last phase is an eminent domain action. Okay. So, as Rich pointed out, we've got different types of property rights that are being acquired. And when I say property rights, it's because when we show the little strip of land on the one map, what you were seeing was that's the actual property that's going to become part of city ownership. That will become right of way in the future. But we are also going to need easements in order to take care of utilities that serve those properties, and they're going to need those as part of the redevelopment. And we will need temporary easements so we can complete construction in there. Once we're off of that, then we repair, restore that area, and it goes back to them. And remember, with the easements that we take, that property still can be used by the property owner so long as that use is not inconsistent with our use. In other words, if we have a pipe under the ground, you can't put a piling in the same area. That's going to be an area that's going to be either used for lawn or landscaping or something like that, depending on what we have. What we're doing at this point is part of the acquisition phase, and that's laid out in RCW 8.26 under the Uniform Relocation Assistance and Acquisition Act. This is all done in compliance with the law. The right-of-way agents, the folks that are the boots in the ground, that are knocking on the doors, talking to folks, they're following the law as it's laid out by our state legislature. It's based on federal law, and the state law mirrors federal law. All acquisitions start off initially as voluntary. In other words, we're just doing this because everybody reaches an agreement. That's the goal. But there's also limitations on what we can do. We can't gift public funds. And part of not being able to gift public funds is saying we have to, first of all, determine what fair market value is, and then we can agree to what we pay based on that fair market value. But just because someone wants, say, $200 a square foot, if the land's only worth $30 a square foot, we can't justify that. That would be a gift. And that you're constitutionally prohibited from giving a gift. You're constitutionally required to pay fair market value. You have two constitutional requirements that we have to follow in this process. So the idea is that at the end of the day, we want the project to look like this. You can see part of phase one right now, looking across on it, and then we're looking at the vision of phase two, how that will all look. This is going to be an improvement to many of the people's pieces of property, and it might result in some of their property going up in value. We're considering this, though, at the time based on what the property is today, not what it will be 10 years from now. So what happens if we can't settle? If we can't settle, as I mentioned, the first option, and we need to move to this quickly, is to offer the possession and use agreement. We're going to be offering that early on. That preserves everyone's rights to continue to negotiate and discuss just compensation while we move forward with this project. That kind of puts a pause button on everything and allows people the opportunity to continue to negotiate during this process. In fact, I've worked on a number of projects where people have entered into possession and use agreements early on, and the project's actually finished before the negotiations are done. And while that isn't great, because sometimes these projects take several years, what it does is at the end of the day, people say, well, you know, it really wasn't that bad. All those fears that I had and concerns, they didn't happen. It allows everyone the opportunity to see what happens during the process. But if we can't settle, and we haven't been able to reach an agreement on early possession and use, then we do have to file an action. That action is, eminent domain action is like a lawsuit, similar terminology to a regular civil litigation. You have a summons, but instead of having a complaint, you have what's called a petition, because we're asking for affirmative relief. The first thing that happens is there is a public use and necessity hearing, and that is determined by what you do tonight. Public use, obviously this is a public use, and that has been determined numerous times over the years. This is for a roadway project. It is public use. Then the question is it necessary? The necessity issue is really left up to you. The court gives great deference to the legislative determination of necessity, because there's always going to be someone with a different idea. But you as representatives for the city have to determine if this is a project you want to go forward with. Therefore, you determine the necessity, and the court defers to you on that. After that, we would request possession and use of the property. Similar to the early possession and use agreement, we would do that. And why would someone give us possession and use at that time? Because it preserves their claim for potentially getting attorney's fees, and it also, again, allows the project to move forward, cutting down on the chance that we would have to move for expedited trial and do all these other things. At the end, if they don't like what we've come up with and we can't get an issue, get that resolved, then the compensation is determined by either a judge or a jury, depending on what they select. So you might have a jury of your peers determining that. So it isn't just us saying this is the way it is. It's the citizens that work with them. And at this point, we have two requests for the council. Part of this process is, this is called the final action, because you're taking final action on this. You've heard about it before. We are going to be requesting that you approve the condemnation ordinance, which allows continuation of negotiations and the filing of the condemnation actions if necessary. During the public comment period is your opportunity to listen to what the citizens have to say that might be impacted by this. They've all been given notice of this. It is not a time for you to debate the issue or to argue with folks. It's just time for you to hear. Remember, the council speaks as a whole. So it's good for you at this point just to hear what goes on. At the end of this, I'm going to be outside. If people want to talk to me about the process, they can talk to me about the process. But again, what's going to happen is after they talk to me, I will have the right-of-way agents contact them directly about their concerns, and we will work through those in an effort to get things resolved for you. And do you have any questions of us at this point?
Do we ask questions now or open the public hearing?
You can ask the questions now.
Okay. So this is for the council. Do we have any questions or comments? Okay.
Do we want to get into the nitty-gritty? May I ask? Does anybody have?
If you have questions, you can ask it now.
Okay, good. Thank you. Thank you. I had a question about some of the emails I've received from our citizens, and that is about it's happening very quickly. And so they're questioning the timing, although they said they got most of their letters were received May 9th, so about a month ago. So could you, there's a couple questions there. I wanted to know what is the urgency of timing so we don't lose money? Because I think that's why we're working on this right now.
Correct.
Is to pass this and go forward so the city saves money. So could you explain when the timing deadline is, what we're looking for, and how much would we save?
Okay. As far as actual dollars go, I'm going to have to defer to Rich because of there's significant requirements in order for you to get these funds. First of all, we need to have everything to the state affirmed by December, which means when you back things up in the legal world, which moves at glacial pace, if we can't have possession and use agreements, which will allow us to move forward, then I have to start filing cases in August. The result is going to be the same. The idea of giving the possession and use agreements is that basically places the negotiations in a state of suspense, as it were, not really as it relates to the funding, allows us to move forward, allows us to get the funding, but allows us also the opportunity to continue to negotiate and move on, all understanding that their rights are not prejudiced at all with reference to the just compensation. Rich, how much are we talking about here?
So we obtained a $5 million TIB grant, and we are, because of the project delays, we had to ask for an extension at the beginning of this year. And so they granted us the extension. They may or may not grant it if we go in the if we have to extend it again. They told us that if we are really close, we're making progress and we're almost there, then then more likely than not, we could get one more extension. We'll have to go in person and talk to their board. But if we're not making progress and it looks like there could be more delays, then they'll withdraw the funds and we'll have to reapply at a later time.
And the important part about that too is, as you know, we've got inflation. Sound Transit is using a lot. No, it's all part of Sound Transit. Remember, they're taking a lot of the construction dollars, moving ahead, the labor and everything else. I was on another project, they were working on it, and the delay cost of 6 months cost them about 15% of the overall project costs. So delays, actually, not only you lose the money, but it's going to cost you more in the end.
Thank you. So then, to reiterate that, we'd be saving $5 million on this project and on that grant. And it has to be, I think you said, has to be completed by December? Or?
It has to be certified by December, which means there's levels of certification that we get. There's a certification called the Certification 1 where we own everything, free and clear, and all negotiations are done. And then there's a Certification Level 2 where we have all of the needed property rights, but the negotiations are not finished. And then, we also don't want to be, and if somebody just doesn't cooperate, then I have to move for an expedited trial, get public use and necessity. They will allow us to go on and move forward with it, because this is something that we would get public use and necessity on, but possession and use might wait until, say, March, because we'd have to try the case on an expedited basis. The problem with that is if we delay construction or we can't get on that one particular site, then it's going to drive costs up significantly, and we don't know how much.
Good. I had another question.
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. We're, of course, talking about revitalize our city, and we're talking about 56th Avenue West. But could you, we've looked at maps and that, but for the audience and everything, exactly what is our south boundary and how far north do we go with this project?
The south boundary is just north of 236th. The phase 1 of the project, you can see where the paving today, there's a joint there where there's new paving and old paving. So we'll start right there, and we will go north through 230th. And then we're looking at terminating the repaving up by PNT Townhomes. If you know where that is, it's a couple parcels north of 230th.
That's the one that's the business living townhomes? on 56? Is that what you're speaking of?
Yes, it's the,
Just right before the barber shop?
it's just north of 230th.
Which is Vineyard Park.
Yeah.
All right, so it's not going to go up to the next street fully?
No, no, sir.
So it would then, precisely where would it stop?
I use the PNT Townhome project as kind of a reference.
Yeah.
Because they, as part of their project, repaved half the roadway. So we're going to repave the other half of the roadway and stop. So we'll have new sidewalks opposite them. As part of their project, they built new sidewalks, and they put in some of the conduits and infrastructure that we'll need for undergrounding. And then, so there'll be a little bit of work on the north side of their project as we transition from the underground. The project's going to underground the overhead wires, and so we'll have to transition back to what's existing right there about the PNT townhomes.
Okay, thank you.
It's right across from the American Legion.
Pardon me again?
It's right across from the American Legion.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I understand now. I had another question, though. Another question I had would be, I know we did a lot of work for water, stormwater and that, but now I wanted to know specifically what was quality water treatment. Is that water that's leaving? Once they use the water, it has to be treated to leave? So it's not just going to go in the stormwater system? Could you explain that for us, please?
Sure. So the stormwater goes into the drains, and we built the regional detention center, which is also a water treatment center. It infiltrates the water into the ground. It's in the parking lot here. So the pipes that will channel stormwater to the regional detention center only handle part of the area of the project. So it's basically 56th from the north end, the PNT townhomes, down to about 233rd. So all of that surface area, roadway area, will go to the regional detention center here in the parking lot. At 233rd, we actually cross drainage basins. So there's a new drainage basin south of that, and so we can't take that water and actually send it to the regional detention center. Ecology doesn't let us pump water from one drainage basin to another. So what we're looking at now is how do we treat more of that water in the second drainage basin. When the project first started, the square footage of the area we were disturbing didn't reach the threshold that we had to treat it at all. So they didn't plan on treating it. They were just detaining it. But with our new environmental regulations and some of our vision is we want to be the better neighbor and not just take advantage of that. We are looking at 234th as taking all the runoff that happens on there, and I think part of 56th, and then building another infiltration pit that we can let the water soak into there, which will treat the water. We'll have some, maybe some biopod treatment systems to go along with it, but if we can not add any pollution generating surface to the system, then that makes our NEPA permits very happy and the ecology folks very happy and makes us happy too. So we're looking at infiltration for 234th. 232nd, I want to mention that again, only half of it would drain to the regional detention center. From 57th to 58th, it actually drains and misses the detention center. It goes to an overflow, so it doesn't get treated for water quality. So we want to address that too and make a connection at the intersection out here at 58th and 232nd, and make another connection to our regional treatment center to capture the whole area north of there that's currently bypassing it anyway. There's enough capacity in the system that we can do that. And again, we want to make sure that we're treating as much water as we can.
Thank you. I was going to say, as far as these environmental regulations that you have to abide by, are they really recent, or have they been around for a while?
They've been around for a while, and they continue to evolve, you know, as we learn more about the chemicals that affect the fish populations and the water sources. The amount of treatment continues to grow. We're going to have some future discussions about our sewage treatment plant requirements. We send a lot of our sewage to Edmonds. And Edmonds is at some point going to have to start providing additional treatment based on some of the newer regulations. The ecology folks, they're always looking at the latest results of the studies and adjusting their requirements as such.
Thank you. Yes, that seems to be happening a lot lately. I know a lot of things are getting more expensive. And I can see why we'd like to get moving on this, because with delays, it's going to cost more. And I know that the COVID problem really cut down a lot, although we got a nice city hall during that. But I'm sure a lot of things got slowed down, especially supply chain and things like that. So I understand timing that way. So appreciate you helping me with all those questions. Thank you.
Richard. Go ahead, Councilmember Woodard.
Mine's real quick, and you're probably taking it in a different direction. I'm sorry for folks who are having to wait a minute here, but you just raised something that was interesting, even more interesting to me, which was out here in the parking lot, you're the first one to acknowledge, underneath there is a system that's dealing with the water filtration. We put it in like in 2010, 2011, like literally right out in this park. None of this looked this way. Let's back up, but when we get our heads around that, we took time and we put a substation or something in. And it sounded like you just said that's the plan we would do at 234th and 230 and 56? Or am I conflating the two?
We want to use the one that we have here in the parking lot, the regional detention facility that also will infiltrate the water down.
So let me pause you right there. So the thing in the parking lot right now that's buried is called the Regional Detention Facility.
Yes.
Perfect. We don't have to talk about any more of that. And anybody wants to learn about that, I encourage you to. It was absolutely amazing to see it get put in. That said, you're suggesting we put a second regional or feeder that comes back to I guess that's where I'm saying. What was that about 234th that impacted this parking lot?
I can't come back to this parking lot was the problem, because it's in a different drainage
Can't pump it back.
So we want to do something on a little smaller scale over on 234th. We're studying the infiltration rates and seeing if we can infiltrate any of the new surface, the hard surface on 234th into the ground there, similar to what we're doing here.
Excellent.
We're also looking at some other sites that we would do in conjunction with 57th, but we'll know more as we do the planning for that.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. Thank you for clarifying, and thank you for finally naming what's in this parking lot. That said, let me speak to the young people. If we move in that direction, I hope that we'll turn this into an absolute educational opportunity for you. I kid you not. It was amazing to watch that get put in, and to think that we're going to potentially do a smaller scale. That'd be a great community engagement piece, because people, you're walking around and there's stuff under the ground that we're talking about now that make a difference, but most of us don't know about it until it's impacting us in a public comment, public forum situation. So let's educate people on the front side, and that'll help us in the long run as well. But thank you for, again, for the presentation, and done with my comment. I thought it was quick, but you know us.
Councilmember Murray.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you both for the presentation. I appreciate it. And it's so nice to have so many folks here and, here to hopefully learn and share. I guess I did have one squirrel sort of comment as long as we were talking about things. And then I did have a couple of questions as well that I was going to hold. But as long as we're digging in, it seems like a good time to do that. So I think in terms of just as we are going through this, something unrelated to the, what's before us tonight, but connected to the Main Street Development Project, which is interesting for me. So I'm just started my second term on the council. I'm about 4.5 years in, and these are projects that got approved and put in place long before I joined the council. And so because of that, and because we haven't reviewed it in depth in a while, I guess I had not realized exactly where the north end of the Main Street Phase 2 project was. And so I guess I would just encourage us, we've had a lot of conversations about safety, and particularly pedestrian and bike safety in our community, although, road safety generally has been an ongoing conversation, and we heard some feedback tonight from our community about that. And we've been doing a lot of work in that space. And so I guess I would just name, we've got like 3/4 of a block between where this project is going to end and 228th, which is where Terrace Park, one of our elementary schools, is located. It seems like we should, I think one of the things we do really well and city staff often does really well is thinking about when we have projects, like where is there opportunity to combine efforts in order to maximize investments and cut down on reciprocal costs of having multiple projects. So I think in thinking about safe roads to school, and how do we help people get around our community safely, regardless of how they are navigating our community, I think that's something that we should revisit at some point to ensure that we aren't missing an opportunity if all we have to do is do some additional striping up that street or, whatever the case may be to potentially fill in a 3/4 of a block gap. That feels like something maybe that we should take a look at. Okay, but so that was my squirrel comment. A couple other questions, and Councilmember Ryan covered a couple of them, so very appreciative there. I think going back to that, the question before us around the necessity of the work, we talked about the TIB grant that's before us that we have to move quickly on, which is necessitating some of the push to move quickly through this process. Can we talk a little bit, you talked about the RAISE grant, but I also don't think that that is necessarily something that most folks understand what that is and the impact of that, and I guess helping me understand both maybe reminding me what the total cost or the total ask of that grant is that we have in before the federal government. And if that were to be something we were to be approved for, and we're anticipating response on that later this month, what expectations would be there in terms of turnaround time? Because I guess we hosted Representative Del Bene here in the community a couple of weeks ago, and it sounds like federal projects move very quickly sometimes, or they would like them to move very quickly if they are granting funds to a community. Is there somebody who maybe could just remind us maybe total grant application cost, and then if we have any understanding about if we were to receive that, what the ask would be for us? I guess my question is that funding that if we don't move quickly, we have potential to not be able to execute and lose out on as well?
I'll let you go.
I'll answer the speed question. Okay. The RISE grants, the way the federal government works, because they had a bunch of, things on Build Back America and whatnot, and the money was awarded, it was just never spent. They decided that was not going to be something they were going to do anymore. In other words, if they grant it to you, you've got to spend it promptly. I'm working with another entity, city on the east side of the mountains. They got it, and the timelines are ridiculously fast. And we're really moving at sort of light speed, talking to the right-of-way folks and getting them to understand that, no, we have to commit and we have to have everything dug up, start digging in the springtime. And they were only starting their project planning about 1.5 years ago. You've been planning this for quite some time. We're way ahead of it. To a large degree, we're in a real fortunate position. You get the money, you already know how to spend it. That's one of the big concerns with the federal funds. If you get them, you better be ready to spend them. When they talk about shovel-ready, they mean, okay, here's your money, get going.
So my understanding of if we are successful in getting the RAISE grant, it can take up to 6 months for us to be able to obligate the funds, and that's on their end, not on us. But as Kinnan said, they are looking for projects that are ready to go, and that was there was a lot of project readiness that was part of the whole application. They wanted to make sure that how are we paying for it? How ready were we? How much public involvement had been done up till then? I mean, they were very thorough in making us document how ready we were to have this project. And I haven't heard anything from them, which is usually a good sign because they'll let you know if you didn't quite pass the first test. So we're really hopeful that we did a great job this time and crossing our fingers.
Thank you. And just total value, do we remember what the ask is?
I don't remember the exact value off the top of my head, but it's 24, maybe 24 million. There was a cap of 25 was the max.
24,195,000.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Let me go back over my questions now. I guess I was curious. So I think one of the things, that folks are often concerned about is impact, right? And so we have Main Street Phase 1 that we've been through this process with our community. We have residents that have navigated this process, and in terms of particularly impact to their property and, work that was done to ensure that they were left, any issues with the property were resolved, I guess. And we can see, I think, a lot of that I was going to say, I walk down 236 regularly. So can see that in terms of, both the project improvements of the right-of-way project as well as, the fences or the driveways or those sorts of, so I guess I'm curious, I know we have newer staff, but do we know anything about the sort of feedback we received from those residents after we were done with that work and the completion of that work?
That was before I was here, so I don't know a whole lot about it. But I know that I've worked on big projects like this all my career, and I know one of the golden rule there is you always maintain access to business properties. If you close off one of their access, you make sure that people can find the other one. I put up businesses open signs. We'll have directional signs. It is worth it to take the extra step and go the extra mile to help make sure that people can find our businesses, because our businesses, that's our lifeblood in the city there. So we always make sure we have access to that. We want to make sure that we leave the construction area better than it was before. So there's lots of things that, we have that at our disposal there to make sure that we're trying to address all the issues. If we break something, we have to fix it. And again, we want to take care that there's still people living and occupying these properties, and we have to make sure that we impact them as little as possible, and then as short as possible. We want to get in and out of there as fast as we can.
Super helpful. Thank you, Rich. I don't have any other questions.
Can I just say one thing before we go to that? So the last time on 236, we had some students living in those houses. Can we, before we start construction, find out if we have any kids, students that need to take public transportation, school buses and everything, so that we're ready for them, so they don't have to navigate that on their own?
Absolutely.
All right. Go ahead, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Move to open the public hearing.
Second.
So it's been moved and seconded to open the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? So public hearing is now open. City Clerk, do we have any written comments? Or any comments? Anybody signed up?
The written comments were provided to you earlier. We had two sets of those. We don't have anyone who pre-registered for online comments, but we do have a list of folks in person. So we can start with Dan Broussard. You'll have 5 minutes to speak.
I assume it's being recorded, that's why we need the mic. All right, Dan Brossard, President for Fleet Reserve Association, branch number 18 up here on 56th. I came in mildly irritated by the letter, by the way, Councilmember Ryan, dated May 9th, posted the 13th, and received the following week. So there's the shortness that we're showing on how those got to everybody. Now, you're asking, according to what we've received, that the council consider condemnation of the properties as of today and getting that stuff on the books. Normally, we get some sort of offer for the properties, some sort of compensation offer before we have a threat, which is what a condemnation notification is. It's basically a threat to the property owners that you better agree with what we're offering you or we're going to take it anyway. Yes, it's going to be a fair market value. So the timing on this is really, really rotten. Some of the facilities that are being affected here are things like Fleet Reserve Association, things like the American Legion. I think they're going to be speaking later too. Those are all directed by boards. Those boards meet typically once a month. That discussion has to happen with the board. The negotiation needs to be made by them, then taken to membership, and then discussed at membership. You're talking 2-3 months minimum for that to happen within a facility like that. You're telling us this is going to be done within less than 5 months. Not going to fly. It's too fast. Condemnation being done now. You've got at least 3 months to do that. Consider it tonight. I wouldn't pass it tonight because you don't know what the fallout for any of this is. They haven't made any offers to anybody out there that I'm aware of. So thank you. I'm sure that was less than the 5 minutes.
Next is Mary Betts. You'll have 5 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Mary Betts, and I own the property that's the optometry and chiropractics on 56th. My concerns are for the patients, getting in and out. I have patients that are, the doctors there have patients that are visually impaired, physically impaired for the chiropractor, and it's difficult enough. I have, they like the building that they're in now because it's one story and it's easy access. That's something I'm going to be concerned about. You've been talking about this for years and years, and we know this, and it's the same as Dan said. I talked with a couple of attorneys, and they said they never do a condemnation letter that we received prior to giving an estimate for our proposal for what they're going to pay for it. So again, there's a lot of rushing that has been going on with questions being asked, and we'll get the answers. I understand that, and I do understand about the money, but that's not our fault. That was the council's fault or whatever. So those are my primary concerns for my doctors. I don't want them to lose revenue. If they do, they're going to leave, and then I will continue to have a mortgage that is not being subsidized by the doctors. That's my concerns. Thank you.
Next is Solchi. Is she Zach? Soichi. Okay. You'll have 5 minutes.
My name is Kirk Ishizaki, and I am a concerned business owner in the city of Mountlake Terrace. To better understand how the Main Street revitalization might affect businesses, I've reached out to some of the businesses and property managers that were affected by the 236th Street revitalization that was completed 4 years ago. Though I have the consent of some of the individuals that I spoke with, I was asked by one to remain anonymous for fear of retaliation. I will therefore keep everyone's input I received anonymous. Here are some of the responses I received to the following questions. How did the construction impact your business, and were there any access issues to the property? Lots of issues regularly. Terrible for 1.5 years, blocked entrances, basically shut us down, did not maintain good access. Issues occurred for months and months. A special stand went out of business. Would there be anything that you would do differently? The contractors hired to do the 236 construction were miserable. I barely survived. I don't want to go through that again. The contractors left their equipment for days on the property while they worked on other locations. They disrupted others while disrupting me. Weird how they did things, tore everything up, and looked like you couldn't access our business. Would there be anything you would have wanted the city or the contracted construction company to have done differently? I wanted them, the city of MLT, to negotiate in good faith. I wanted the contractors doing the work to have some oversight and tell them not to block both access at the same time. By law, I think they had to keep one access open, but there was no traffic control. Nighttime would have been better. They should reimburse the businesses for their losses. I can provide proof. Did the city of MLT follow up with you after the completion of 236th? Did they take away any lessons, provide any assurances to lessen the issues when they revitalized 56th? No one contacted me. No, I wanted to hire a lawyer and sue them, city of MLT, for loss of income, but I gave up. The city doesn't care. The public hearing for the 56th revitalization is scheduled for 6/6. Will someone from the business be attending? No, won't do any good anyways to participate. I'm afraid that the Main Street revitalization will impact us in the same way the residents and businesses were negatively impacted during the 236 revitalization construction. I urge the city to pause and reach out to those impacted by 236 and see what lessons can be learned before repeating the same mistakes again. To be clear, I'm not anti-development, nor am I opposed to enhancing the infrastructure to support future further development. I am opposed to the manner and methods used by the city to keep property owners and businesses in the dark with little consideration given to how this may impact the livelihoods of your business community. For West Plaza, that is 130 plus employees among 6 businesses. Council members of Mountlake Terrace, I beg you to stop this condemnation legislation and give us time to have a meaningful dialogue with the residents and longtime business owners so that the Main Street revitalization is mutually beneficial for us all. Please do not ignore us and harm us like the 236 business owners and property managers. I submit a written copy of my verbal comments for the public record. And because of the dizzying pace and lack of communication thus far, I also submit the following questions to the City Council for the public record. Question 1, what outreach has been done for impacted property owners and businesses for the 2019 Town Center Sub-Area Plan and environmental approvals? Question 2, what outreach has been done for impacted property owners and businesses for the Main Street Revitalization Phase 2 project? Thank you.
Next is Sean Mickelson. You'll have 5 minutes at the podium.
Hello, my name is Sam Michelson. I'm the general manager of the Diamond Knot Brew Pub right up the way here. It's Sam, but I have terrible handwriting, so I'll accept Sean Michelson because I bet it looked like that. So anyway, I really appreciate everybody here. I'm maybe going to sound like I'm on decaf compared to everybody else. With Diamond Knot, we're pretty chill. I've got a brief statement for my CEO I want to make, and I just want to go over a couple of things here. First of all, I just want to say I love the business atmosphere in this community. I think this is an incredible community. We feel so fortunate to have a close relationship with the high school here. The way you do your city government here is so wonderful. I've managed businesses both north and south of Seattle, and I've been in some tough situations, and I'm not going to name them. But anyhow, the meetings I've sat in, you folks are a really warm bunch of folks, and I just appreciate everybody who's here, and I want to say that as well. So right here at Diamond Knot, we're a part of this community. We're really proud of the role we play. I'm employing people as young as 18 years old. I've got a couple of gentlemen that are older than I am, who are in their 50s, still making a great living in hospitality here. And a big part of it is just trying to be here for our neighbors, be here for the community. We're thrilled about the light rail coming in here and all the smart moves that the city is making here to facilitate that. I've got some ideas and pitches about a little elevator or a streetcar, but I'll leave you guys alone right now because that's not what this is about. But man, let's find some money, guys. Let's find some money. Anyhow, Diamond Knot has gone through a few of these changes that have impacted us in the past. And a lot of our history began in Mukilteo when we first had a chance to move out and find the right community. We knew Mountlake Terrace was it, and we're all real proud of our role here in Snohomish County, and I'm proud to be a part of this community here in Mountlake Terrace. So in our time in Mukilteo, we had issues that were about progress, and we support progress. So we had things like the paid public parking go in. City needed to build some revenue. It was really difficult for us because a lot of folks will occasionally come in, get an ice cream cone or something like that. And sometimes if you've got to drop couple of bucks in a little turnstile, it decreases the chances you're going to get folks coming in for an ice cream or for a quick bite or something like that. We also had the revitalization for the Lighthouse Park there in Mukilteo. That was a tough one for us because, of course, they made that beautiful facility, but that's right where our ale house is down there. And then maybe folks don't even know, they've moved the entire ferry landing. So, of course, my whole life, you just kind of come down Mukilteo Speedway there and just go right on that boat. I know there's real good reasons why they did it, and I understand there's less current. I won't bore you guys with the details, but it was really tough for our business down there because now instead of having a waiting audience of, folks waiting for a ferry who could walk over and get a little food for the ferry and go, they're a little further away. We're not allowed to access them. So after all that, I want to tell you, and those all impacted our business, we were happy to be a part of it. We're part of the community. We want to be here, and we want to cooperate and work with the leaders here. So understand, I am concerned about particularly a 56th and 232nd coming to construction at once. Looking at that timeline, I'm guessing these are going to be in phases, and I sure hope so. I'm not sure about that. The gentleman here with the red polo, I like your dressing sense, sir. I dress much like you all the time. You look great. It did kind of scare me when you were talking about posting the signs that said our businesses are open. That feels like a real minimum to me. I used to manage a number of businesses along here on Shoreline on 99, and I felt like every time I'd acquire a new business, I was where their big construction project was. They were doing, I don't even remember, 8 or 9 years ago. And oh my gosh, that was just a mess right there. So we try to tie it up a little bit here, guys. Again, the message I want to bring from our CEO of our company is we value progress. We want this place to keep coming. Look at where we're going. This is such a neat county. We've come so far. It's so cool here in Snohomish County. The city is so neat and so wonderful. We value your leadership. I've written a few notes about, I'm such a fan of the mayor here, and I had such a warm meeting with the assistant city manager a little bit before we got started here this evening. We support all of you guys and want your leadership and appreciate that. What we really want is communication. And of course, it was so scary, as was mentioned by a few of my previous speakers here, to get this information and not have known what was coming. And I do hear from folks who've been here in person a little longer than I have. They did have some idea, I believe, coming down the road. But I've been here about 3 years, and frankly, I found out the lowdown right when that letter arrived, and it was a big shock for us. So I think if you hear some stronger language from some of us, it's the speed of business is not as fast as we'd always like, and it is a lot easier to have time to discuss these things and think about contingency. So I don't want to hold up a whole lot more of your time. I appreciate everyone. We want this progress. The idea of a beautiful downtown here in Mountlake Terrace is incredible, but please remember, we're supporting people. I've got between 50 and 60 employees at all times. They're wonderful folks. We love this community. We want to do what we can to support them, but please remember us here as well. We want to help lift up this community with jobs and with a great place for everyone to go and have a little time after work or what have you. So thanks, folks.
Next is Pete Lazzarati. You'll have 5 minutes.
Madam Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, members of the City Council. My name is Pete Lazzarati. I am the branch secretary and past regional president Northwest of the Fleet Reserve Association. I have been the branch secretary for the last 10 years. I receive about 85% of all of the correspondence that our branch receives either by mail, email, or commentary on our webpage. Approximately 6 years ago, we began getting a lot of solicitations to sell because of the development coming. Those got round filed immediately. When this last round of letters came out from the city, my caretaker sent me a photo of it because I was at home at the time. And it's like, wait a moment. I finally just had one of the developers and the appraiser already contact me in that time frame between the postmark date of that letter and when we received it almost a week and a half later. I do not like the language that was presented. We are a veterans organization and have been serving this community in Mountlake Terrace for over 25 years. We have been serving the Puget Sound for 97. You got to remember that there is a lot of veterans in this community that rely on both the Fleet Reserve, the American Legion, and other organizations. Please, one of the things that's going to affect us is approximately 7 of our parking spots, a utilities vault, and the big sign on our corner. I hope when we do get the offers that everything takes care of what we are going to lose property-wise, and going forward, that the city remembers that the veterans are here to serve within our city, and we have already served our country. Thank you very much for your time this evening.
Next is Sally Buckingham. Do you want to speak again? Okay. Jin Feng Luau, you'll have 5 minutes at the podium.
Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna spend the whole 5 minutes. I'm actually a newcomer to this Mountlake Terrace. I just bought the house about, I think, maybe less than 3 months ago. I think at the end of February that acquired it. But I think I get a warm welcome of your letters. I think even that's the letter. I think people already mentioned the communication. Communication is not so good. I avoid using the bad because English is not my native. If I speak anything inappropriate, maybe in grammar or something, please forgive. So. We bought this house, and then I think this welcome is the project that is gonna change what we think about what it will look like as what we planned before we buy the house. Because one biggest thing is that I think also my neighbor as Chong, I think she also have some English language barrier, so I've just maybe speak on her behalf as well, because she's my neighbor. So what they plan is that they want to actually put a transformer between, my property and my neighbor's property. The big junk, monster, I would call it, if I understand correctly. If you don't know what a transformer looks like, then Google it and you will see it. And are you willing to put that in front of your house at all? I would ask you. So if you look at it. So if not, then don't do this to me. Don't, without asking, without even, give me a chance, because your registered mails or the certified mail never reached to my mailbox. Even the mailbox was there. So it's another issue. As people tell, the communication is not good. Until I think even the day before yesterday, we were forwarded by the third-party company you hired to try to negotiate with me and delivering this. They even said the second letter saying that it's hard for them to communicate because they couldn't find us. I don't know what that happened, because on the day, it's my neighbor who handed over the letters that she received and showing, did you get this letter? Oh, I said, yeah, of course, I should get, if everybody's supposed to get it, but I didn't. So I just wait for another 2 or 3 days. This letter never came. I checked the mailbox again and again until, I think I was really, really busy, as an engineer, working in the high-tech industry. But I still not knowing why, those certified mail didn't come at all, and who signs it. I tried to talk to the guy who came to me yesterday. I think he will find an answer. Maybe he will not find an answer, but again, the communication is bad. So forgive me using the word bad instead of not good, okay? So talking about this eminent domain or condemnation, okay, I don't like the word. Seems like my English is not good, but I know condemn something is not good. Condemnation, I don't know if it's same as a condemn you. I don't think this is a good word anyway. But I did see this one, but I don't know if the transformer, if the public road is kind of I think in one of the gentlemen's shows, it's a public requirement or something. I couldn't remember the exact term, but isn't a transformer is a must, and it must put on, if it must, is that must put on in my yard? I think I lose all my trees and all that. I don't know what will happen to that, but based on this original plan that they showed me here, so the whole thing, the transformer will be sitting there. I don't know why they said it's possibly because the original poles of the thing sitting there, but on the other side, I showed it, I pointed to the pole is on the other side of the fence, which is not on my property. Then why they chose my property to put the pedestal on the other side? So I don't know if I'm the worst case in, my property has suffered the most because of the two monsters gonna be sitting in front. But if I know there's a transformer in front of the house, I wouldn't buy this one, 2 months ago. But right now, you're telling me you're going to put that on and only compensate me for, based on the formulas that I was given, it's like a $500 or at most $1,000. But if I would look at it in the housing market, if for a transformer, this big monster sitting in front, I would at least reduce the house value for like a 100K in nowadays. I think in the 10 years ago, I think if I see a monster in front of the house like the transformer, it's definitely at least 50K will be lost. But nowadays, that how the market looks like, right? So it's at least a 100K value it lost. That who is gonna pay for that? So that's another key thing I want to say. So if you don't want this thing sitting in front of your house, don't put it in front of my house. Okay, that's what the English saying says. Put your feet in somebody else's shoes, right? Or something like that. So forgive me. So what the time is that? 5 minutes?
Yeah, your 5 minutes.
Okay. And I think I heard a veteran speak out. I heard a lot of people, as most likely the business owner have suffered. I think I'm probably partially representing the residents. I think, I haven't suffered, but I already suffered spiritually because I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know why it was not communicate to me in the past in a timely manner, and now they are telling me, they want this project to go forward, quickly, and they want to condemn me, or what else? Okay, so I don't know why this condemnation is the only welcome package I received from the council. I mean, as a newcomer, I think I should be moving to a community that is probably gonna receive a welcome in terms of something else, not like a project, that's gonna invade my territory and putting all these monsters on my property. Okay, so that's all I want to say. I think, yeah. Thank you everyone for listening. Forgive my English if it's not good. Okay, thank you.
Last is Paul. Yes, thank you. You'll have 5 minutes.
Yeah, I won't take that long, but I just want to echo everyone else's comments. But thank you guys for being here. I know that we're trying to beautify Mountlake Terrace, and 236th Street does look great. I'm sure the neighbors, I can imagine what the fights were there. So just try to keep that in mind too, as if we do end up moving forward with this project. But most of all, really what I want to talk about is just some of the regulations that are set forth in Mountlake Terrace. We have some properties on 56 and across the street where they're trying to develop that 10-block square area right on between 235th and 236th, between 56th and 58th, all those houses there that we had an offer on actually about 2 years ago, but it fell apart because, and I don't really know the nuances of it or anything like that, but I just know that there's a lot of regulations and extra money that the builders are going to have to pay in order to do it. And I'm thinking, well, shoot, I wish, if the city could, I guess the city wanted a new road. Maybe that's the 57th Street you're talking about. But I mean, for a builder to come in, they're going to need, I can see why they backed out of the deal, because now all of a sudden they have to pay for that road, and there goes a lot of their profit too. So really I'm just thinking, yeah, it would have cost the city probably some money for that road, but at the same time, you're losing hundreds of thousands of dollars in taxes every year that property sits there with no big condominiums or retail buildings there, whatever they're going to build there. You're going to make that money back on taxes, on all those property taxes. Right now, we've got houses sitting there that really they're dilapidated. And just the look of it is not beautiful to Mountlake Terrace. And I know that if that whole section there was redone the way you want to try to beautify 56, that would really say a lot for the city and just for the community. Just coming right off the freeway there and the light rails right there and everything else. You come up and you just see all those dilapidated houses. It looks terrible. So if you could do anything with the building codes or something like that to make it a little more builder friendly. And even on 56, some of the properties my friend and I own, they're just the codes. They have to have retail on the bottom, but then no builder wants to take it on because they can only go up 3 stories, I think it is, and on most of that part there, like right around 235th going north. So whether, maybe raise the ceiling on that a little bit so there's more money if you're going to have retail on the bottom. Otherwise, no one's going to build that. No builder's going to take that over. It's just going to sit there. You're going to have a beautiful street. You're going to have dilapidated houses all up and down 56. So those are just some of my concerns, my worries. Hopefully you kind of keep that in the back of your mind when going forward, when builders want to come. Be builder friendly. I mean, that's really what this is about. This is a great city here. It has a lot of potential. Just like Shoreline used to be like this. And now look at it, it's beautiful. Shoreline, they did a great job with Shoreline. And we have that same opportunity here in Mountlake Terrace to go ahead and make things nice, but be builder friendly, because otherwise the builders just get scared away when they have to come up here to City Hall and talk to people. That's all we hear. No one wants to take that 56 projects on because they feel like they're not welcome here, and there's too many regulations. So that's all. Thanks for listening.
We don't have anyone else that has signed up.
Can I say something? I would like to hi, my name is Annie Liu. I own a gas station right over here by 76 since 2008. Thank you. Maybe you can be my customer before. Anyway, I've been taking a look today what's going on. I just have one suggestion as a licensed real estate broker. I think would be very beneficial if the city can host a meeting, give a notice for all the people around impacted by the entire street. We can have a meeting like this. Today is really informative. It's really helpful. At least we know what's going on. But I want to say I did not get a notice at my little gas station, although I'm kind of closed out for the past couple of years. I will be appreciated. I got a package. I wasn't getting notified. I didn't get any package at all. And then I heard about today's meeting from the Double D meat when I was there, purchased meat yesterday. So I think communication is very, very important. It's been with city here. I love this city, and I want to see we have bigger street, so everybody will have higher property value. So I know some of you have a transformer issue on that. They'll be submitting up to those two gentlemen, for the what they call the compensation package. But I would really kind of think about we should have open communication, have your city invite everybody, have something like this. Then we talk about it, and you guys can owe everybody individually to do the package deal because everybody have much higher square footage. Like my little gas station, I only have a little bit. Compared to Kirk, he has a whole bunch. Square footage wise. So I think will be something for city to think about that. Something for us. I'm one of you guys too, as a property owner. We can kind of, hopefully, city can give us a little bit more open communication. We really need it. And then I am in the middle. I think I like the road to be wider, but I also want to mention I do have my underground tank since 2 years ago when I closed it. So my underground is right probably next few feet. So that's something I want to have, those two gentlemen to kind of consider. Yeah, so we see how they're gonna go. Thank you.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Move to close the public hearing.
Second.
So it's been moved and seconded to close the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? So public hearing is now closed. Do we have any discussion?
Sorry, so we have the public hearing is now closed. If there's any discussion or if you'd like to ask any additional questions of staff. One thing I did want to note, I saw a couple people taking pictures of the presentation. So the presentation is online and it's available. If you are unable to find it on our website, please let us know. We'll be happy to email it to you. The other thing I'd like to note is the suggestion for the open house. We actually have planned that. That will be on July 9th. Here in this room where people would be able to come and ask questions individually about their specific property. So we'll get information, more details about that soon, but it will be on July 9th.
Can the people here leave your access information? Because if you didn't get something in the mail, we might have the wrong information. So if you could just leave with Kinnan or whoever. I just think that we should be able to find them somehow. And if we're not finding them, let's have you leave your information here so that we can find you. So, because apparently we're going to have this meeting and we would like to have you all come. I don't know if, we closed the public hearing. I'm sorry, we've closed the public hearing.
Sir, the public hearing is closed. Thank you.
But I want to speak just 30 seconds. My wife is registered 24 hours before this. Actually, she texted me, and I don't have to come here today. It's reflecting another point, bad communication, very, very bad. Because I talked to the secretary, and she said she doesn't even receive that. But I personally know that she sent it out already, 24 hours. Because she knows that. I even asked her to do that because I might lose chance to speak. Right now, you guys are trying to also down me or mute me, actually.
Mayor, if we could take a break.
I feel that I was intentionally to be muted, but I just want to speak out right now because my wife wants to speak because there are some points she make. It's not like I want to drag this long. She has some points to make, but I said, why you don't want to speak? You cowardly sitting back, and she said she doesn't give the chance. Give her a chance and to let her speak because she is the one that registered for me, to speak on. Otherwise, I shouldn't come here. Because I have a lot of work to do at home, right? So I don't have to come here. But I feel I have to because otherwise I lose a chance to speak out and let people know. Okay, please, the clerk, if it's possible to give a chance for my wife to speak. She's watching me now on the Zoom. Okay, thank you.
And then we gave you a lot of minutes after. So is she there?
No. We didn't get anyone that registered in time.
Mayor, I have a question. If we open it up, do we have to open it to everybody on the phone if it hasn't been approved yet? Because of the notice?
That's correct. We do not have people who have asked 24 hours in advance and responded to my email. So the pre-registration, we do not have anyone that has fulfilled all of those obligations. And the public hearing's closed.
May I ask a question?
Go ahead, Councilmember Sawmore.
Thank you. I know we have Kenan in the room, and I know we've worked at the gas station for many years now, and this was established in 2007. And somebody said they heard that we don't care, and I can tell you 100% this council does care, and I mean that emphatically, and we do care about the people in our city. I have lots of comments, but I'm not going to go into them all now because I just want to ask some facts while Kenan is still with us. And ask, when somebody's buying a house, does a real estate agent have to disclose what is coming forward? And can you talk a little bit about the notifications and how much time has to be given to the residents? I'm asking those questions first because I want to make sure that I understand. And my big thing with the city has always been communication. And so instead of getting mad, I have to be curious, right? I have to be curious of how communication is done in the city and why people didn't know and understand what was going on in our city. And there's lots more to what's going on here that I'd like to bring up at some point, but with having just a couple minutes to ask some questions for some follow-up with Kenan here. Kenan, do you mind answering those questions? And you can, of course, say no, but I was just curious about that fact.
I'm more than happy to answer those questions because I actually pride myself on making sure that we go above and beyond the statutory minimums. The statute requires, and what we did, obviously this is a very tight time frame. It requires, first of all, each person get a letter at least 15 days prior to the hearing, 15 days, only 15 days prior to the hearing, and that it's published once a week for 2 consecutive weeks, 15 days. Now, some people have interpreted that meaning it's going to go out and be published 15 days and maybe 8 days. We went above and beyond that. We obviously published it about a month in advance, and then prior to that, so the second publication was 15 days in there. So everyone did have more than enough notice. One thing that I want to also clear up here is that we are following all of the statutory guidelines and actually going above and beyond that, as a matter of fact. Also, the reading of the ordinance states that negotiations continue. It authorizes condemnation because there are many times when people just don't respond for one reason or another, and you can't lose $25 million because someone just doesn't respond. One of the things that, again, that you have to remember is that this can go forward. All of these negotiations will continue. They will get offers. There will be appraisals. And if they sign a possession and use agreement prior to that time, all of their rights to challenge the compensation, is what we're hearing about tonight here, will be preserved. So this doesn't mandate that I start going out and filing actions, but it allows everyone the opportunity to move forward. The other thing is, and this is another technical legal issue, is that with this ordinance passed, the dollars that they receive are going to be exempt from the real estate excise tax. Now, granted, these aren't necessarily going to be huge sums of dollars, but they will not be subject to the real estate excise tax. Obviously, as this process goes, they also receive what is called, having the option to use this in what's called a 1033 exchange, which is different than a 1031 exchange. You don't have to put the money into any type of escrow, and you get additional periods of time in which to invest the money if you want to invest or if you just want to pay it off, and they should talk to their accountant about that. So much of what I'm hearing is, no, these things are going to be discussed. We are going to have a further outreach. Unfortunately, due to COVID, due to the fact that you didn't have someone here, you don't want to be in a position of losing these types of grant funds. So everyone's rights constitutionally will be protected. All the rights will be followed. I've been doing this for almost 40 years now. And yeah, is this ideal? Absolutely not. But the rest of the world does not do this. One thing I want to point out too, and so everyone realizes this, yes, the federal government grants do put a lot of pressure on us. And there's a reason why, is that the state of Washington is actually in the minority of states where we have to actually get someone to actually get the property. They have to voluntarily relinquish the property, or we have to get a judgment in order to do that. In 38 of the 50 states, once the council passes the ordinance, the property becomes the city's. That is very different in this state. We have to go through a judicial process following that. So we are following the law, and the notifications that were sent out are based on the statutory reference, which means as the address is listed in the tax rolls. But again, if someone is not getting information, please contact Jesse Hoffman, who's the Public Works Director. His email address was on the notification. We can put it up. Again, it's also on the website for the revitalization project, and we can confirm the address there. Any further questions, Councilmember Sonmore?
And thank you, Kenan, for that. And I appreciate your experience in this. I know 236 had some issues, but I did talk to some people on that street, and we made special accommodations for people with adding driveways, adding a fence. We did everything we could, and we understood a lot of those were rental houses. My concern is, and please understand that I am listening and I've been writing down your concerns and comments. And I also have concerns about how the state is telling the cities how we have to grow. If you're very interested in that, I would have you look into how our city has to grow. And I am too extremely passionate about the things you are as well. But I want to tell you, this is my concern, and I really want you to know this, is if we don't do it right the first time and we lose this grant, I'm afraid if you get a new council and understand, we're not looking for you to be mad at us or to vote us off. I mean, that's your right to do that. My concern is if we don't do this right the first time, that we've been planning this since 2007, and we try and get it into all our newsletters, and we're always talking about how do we communicate better, and is my term that I always like to use is what hodgepodge mess is going to be incorporated into 56 if we don't do it correctly and right this time. Because what I can tell you from being on the council for so many years, if it doesn't happen now, it's going to happen in the future. And you might not have any control over what's going to be developed on 56 and how the takings of properties. I mean, it could be that we use the takings, or can explain that better, to take a whole home instead of 2.5 feet of property. There's other things that I've seen cities do, and I'm horrified by them. And what we're trying to do is just to open a path. And then our third phase is to open another path to allow more traffic to come into our city and to help us sustain our budget with the businesses that we're putting in. And I know Jerry and Mr. Wizard's in the office, or in the audience, and I'm sorry I can't see the first Zazy's in person, and look you in the eye and tell you I'm trying to do the best thing for 56, and I'd love to hear from you and anybody who else wants to talk. But we are being told kind of what to do with our city and how to do it. And we've been looking at this for years on how to do it right and how to make 56 better. And American Legion, you guys know that I love you to death. I want what's best for you. We're trying to do whatever we can. And you can see all the buildings that are coming in. We're trying to make sure that road is accommodating to people. And we're trying to do our best we can. But I'm thinking that the alternative might be worse. And maybe that's something the council wants to talk about. But I'm just giving you my 2 cents on trying to answer some of your questions and knowing this is fast. But I do hear you. I do understand. If it was my property, I'd be out here asking questions and doing things too. But I would encourage you to talk to Kenan about all those questions that you have. Some of us on council cannot answer those questions because we're not attorneys and we are not educated in the actual law of providing you funds for these properties. But please know we are trying to do our best. And I'm probably the last one on the council that should be talking like this, because I'm always the one saying, we got to do growth differently. We've got to look at our roads differently. But this is the one project that's been in place for many, many years. And please talk to Kenan if he's going to be outside waiting for you all. I think he will be able to answer some of those questions. Sorry for going off for so long, but I'm very passionate, and we do want to help you. We're not trying to cause you harm. And I'll end there. Thank you for your time.
Anyone else? Okay. We're going to move. I'm going to go for the question. Okay. Mayor Pro Tem Wall.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I want to follow up on Councilmember Sonmore's comments and agree. We do care. We do appreciate the input and everybody being here tonight. And we hear you. And we are going to do everything we can to communicate. I want to assure you that by putting this motion on the table, this is the start of a process. And you're going to hear more and be communicating more with the city. So with that, I will.
Well, so I just want you guys to know that from the very, very beginning, I was working on this from 2005. And what I didn't want was, if you remember the blob at the bottom of Queen Anne in Seattle, I didn't want something like that to come into this city. Because at that time, when we were working on this, with no, anyone could do anything that they wanted, that somebody could have built that in our city. And I use that as an example of what I didn't want to see. So we have design standards, we have a lot of different standards, building standards and everything, and we're going to just be widening this road, making it ready for all the future things to come into the city. So we've been working on it a long, long time, and I really, really apologize for the fact that the letter didn't go out earlier. That part I do, I feel bad about, because I wasn't, the council found out about it at that same time too. So, but we have to do what we can't lose this $24 million grant. And we need to get started on this so that we can get, light rail is coming on August 30th, and we just need to start getting ready for whatever is going to happen to this city, because people are going to come here whether we want them to or not. Okay, now Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Move to adopt the ordinance of the City of Mountlake Terrace, Washington, authorizing the acquisition of real property under threat of condemnation or by condemnation for road purposes, authoring payment thereof from the city's general fund or from other such monies that the city may have available or attain for the acquisition, providing for severability and establishing an effective date.
A point of order. I don't know if that's the right way to do it. I just want to stop. I noticed Councilmember Sonmore's hand is back up, and it came up after you spoke. So let's make sure that she isn't trying to jump in.
Was it up? Okay.
Just want to make sure, because we move fast sometimes, and online and in person doesn't always sync up, so I'm speaking up for my council mate.
Can we have her talk before we vote? Or is it?
I just want to make sure that whatever her hand is up for has been addressed.
Our attorney is on there.
I have a discussion.
Yeah, I'm just,
Yeah, so after the motion and the second, there is opportunity for discussion before vote.
Perfect. Okay.
So Councilmember Sonmore first, and
then
I'll second the
And
motion.
thank you, Councilman Woodard. I just had that other question that I threw out when I was trying to understand everybody and trying to give some comments. When a real estate agent sells a property and they know something's coming in like this, don't they have to disclose? And you don't have to answer me now, and that's probably a follow-up question, but it's something that I'd be really curious in. It's been so long since I took my real estate classes that I can't remember. I know there used to be like a Form 16 for disclosure, but maybe later on we can ask. And I don't want to put anybody on the spot right now, but maybe that's something we could follow up on. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, did you want me to answer that question really quickly?
Pardon?
Did you want me to answer that question really quickly?
Yes, you can answer
Okay,
that.
you're referring to, Councilmember Sonnemore's referring to Form 17. Form 17 has a number of different things that you're supposed to disclose on there. However, none of them are really actionable based on the court's interpretation of it. It's sort of your best idea. It isn't the real estate agent's responsibility, it's the property owner's responsibility.
Councilmember Murray?
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate, I guess, one, I wanted to say thank you. I appreciate very much all of our community members who have shown up tonight to share their feedback. That is incredibly important to us, as so many of my colleagues have already shared. And I think I hear loud and clear consistently that there was an opportunity around communication that, we need to address and we need to do differently in the future. And you have my commitment that is a priority. It's actually been a priority of mine since I joined the council. One of the reasons I ran for city council was to increase engagement and communication between the city and our residents. And I do think that we have made a lot of progress there. And we have also had a lot of staff turnover in between COVID and a lot of new staff. There are things like this where, as our new staff has worked really hard to position us in a place, where we can really make progress on a lot of the projects and the goals that have been hanging out for a really, really long time as a community. There are things that, have had to move faster and differently than an ideal process. And I think every one of us would acknowledge that this is one of those. So I would, echo the mayor's apologies that it recognizes has real impact on folks. I live very close to all of you, and these sorts of things are not easy decisions. And I do think that this is an incredibly important project for our community. It is something that has been worked on, far before I joined the council. And that really is a key component of both the things we have to do as a community in terms of adding growth and the things that we want to do in terms of a community, some of our community goals in terms of adding, a variety of housing types that will support more affordability in our community, adding different sorts of amenities that our residents want in, walkable or, closely, close to their homes. And so, I appreciate that you were here, and I think I was taking lots of good notes because I think there's lots of good feedback in how we move forward. If this does pass, I think there is still lots of really important takeaways, both for us as council in terms of accountability and follow-up, as well as for city staff in terms of how do we learn from. I appreciated the comments. I don't know that he is still here, but I appreciated the comments about it's one of the reasons I asked, what did we learn from the last process, right? Like, what are the things that we are going to be more intentional about in terms of making sure that the impact to our residents, the impact to our businesses, there you are. I think those are important questions. I think I want to understand those, and I want to understand, where the concerns are, because I will say most of the concerns are not with items that are specifically called out in the what is before us today in terms of the ordinance. They're really around the process, which I recognize and commit to ensuring that that is not something that happens again from my perspective at least. So that's all I have. Sorry, I was gonna say it is late in my brain to start, but I think that is. I just thank you for being here. Thank you for the feedback, and appreciate the opportunity to share my thoughts before we vote.
Councilmember Sonmore, did you still want to speak? Your hand is still up.
I lowered it, thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Woodard?
Yes, I just want to make sure I go on record as well, saying thank you all very much for taking the time to participate in the process. And I'm sure that sounds hollow to you because you're going to have some real loss. That said, I hope you also heard in this same sharing that there's some real gains that right now are not foreseeable and probably don't land on you as important today. But nonetheless, just wanted to pause and say thank you again for participating in the process. We all, as you're hearing, can give you, have been in your shoes. And I'm not going to try to justify why I'm going to vote the way I'm going to vote. Just want to make sure it's clear, and we've seen evidence of that. The government sometimes doesn't get it right, but it's for the right reasons. And we do our best to learn from that and move forward. And what I can tell you is you coming and holding our feet to the fire about how soon you got that letter. Let me first just remind you that was really interesting to hear you talk about communication on the same day we had a proclamation about Juneteenth, and that was years in people's actual livelihoods. But nonetheless, just reminding us that communication has historically been a problem, and the stakes have not been reduced, all things considered. You are still losing. So your property is your property. That monster that's coming in front of your house is a problem. But that's part of being a community, and so we also want to say thank you, not just for participating in the process, but for recognizing your place in the growth of a city, because that's what's going on. And that's my way to pause to say, we used to have homes on 52nd, excuse me, I just lost it, where we have that property going up. We actually did take people's homes, so we kind of referenced that that could happen. And I just want to make sure that we acknowledge that we did lose some homes, but we're about to gain an entire community for those sacrifices. So I also want to thank you for your sacrifice. In this case, you're going to lose some feet as opposed to your actual home and the street that I can't remember the name of right now. If anybody wants to correct me, please. 59. I get lost in a paper bag. It's not that I don't remember they're there. I just can't remember their street names. But just kind of recognize the history that it matters to put this type of stuff in the public record over time. So again, thank you for participating in the process. Thank you for your sacrifice, and I too will acknowledge our part in not getting the communication to you in advance, but the fight can still go on, as I'm hearing from our colleagues today. So you're going to potentially not hear the news that you want tonight, but the hopeful piece of ray of hope there is you continue to have your leverage to communicate what your needs are and what your compensation should be.
Councilmember Ryan?
Thank you, Mayor. Before the vote, I do want to say I do like the project, but I am hearing there was some communication issues. And I'm wondering, I don't want to delay this long, but is it possible that in the next week, we could have these people with the concerns talk to us regarding their business access, what they could do, what are some options there? Is there some kind of ballpark estimation on property, just to give them a ballpark on that? I'm hearing they don't have any offers. There's some other things, generators, I thought they went up on the poles, but we're trying to put everything under the ground. So, but can generators go under the ground? Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, we can't have you interrupt. Thank you. So with these concerns, I was wondering, in 1 week, could we have these people meet with whoever needs to review this, maybe the Public Works Director, on options regarding the chiropractic office and the dental there? Any concerns the VA has or the Reserve has? Give them some ideas to make them feel a little better. I mean, I hate to say it, but you know, someone, a council member was saying that you have to make sacrifices or whatever, right? And we're not taking the whole house out, but we're at 2.5 feet and we want the sidewalks to look, you know, the same all the way up and down the street. And we do need to get things going because remember, 56 used to have 9 gas stations. We had a Kentucky Fried Chicken. We had a milk barn, if anybody remembers that. You'd probably be a baby boomer for a milk barn company. And that's what, and we had a couple grocery stores. And I remember I grew up in Seattle and I'd sign on the freeway, this way to Mountlake Terrace. I go, I want to see that city. Got off the freeway, said town center, kept driving and driving. Next thing you know, I was on Ballinger. And I said, where is the city? Is it just a milk barn and 2 grocery stores? We're trying, my point is we're trying to make everything better. But we need communication and address some of these issues that some of our business people, which are vital, would like to have. I'm just wondering if we could do a 1-week pause on this, have those people talk to the necessary people about their property, and then go on with it from there. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to 1, maximum 2-week pause. I did hear something about getting things together by December. I don't want to wait till December. If we could get this in a couple weeks or a week, that'd be great. But those people that are concerned, if they could meet that, I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Can I make a comment addressing that? Nope. Okay.
Is the staff allowed to make a comment on this, or I don't?
So just to address part of that, and I'll ask Rich to talk about a little bit. One of the problems, we can make a commitment that we will hold, we will ensure business access the entire time. What we can't do is tell you exactly how, and the reason for that is we acquire the right-of-way, we bid the project, and then once we select a contractor to do the work, that contractor then performs produces a traffic control plan. That traffic control plan then comes to us, and we either approve it or reject it based on criteria that we select. One of those criteria will be maintaining business access. In this instance, I've gone a step further and talked to several of the business owners that have contacted me about concerns and said that once we receive that draft traffic control plan to ensure business access, that we will share it with that business community so that they have an opportunity to comment on it and maybe improve it before we give it the check mark and send it off to the contractor and say, go implement. So these are the types of things that we would do as a matter of course without even thinking about it, but I do want to state it affirmatively here because no city is going to shut off business access if they can help it. And in this case, I think, one of the comments was made, you're working on 232nd and 56 at the same time. No, we won't. And for that reason, among a number of others, engineering reasons that I'm sure Rich can share with you. But I just wanted to address that particular point right away, and I'll turn it over to Rich.
I just wanted to add the right-of-way process is being handled by our right-of-way consultant team, and they are, I think they're made up of 5 or more people, and they are actively in the community right now. I know that this week alone, I signed off on 17, I think, appraisals. So they are ready to start making the offers, and they have the appraisal information and the values that they're going to offer people in their files. And so within a week or so, we won't have that information necessarily for everybody. So I guess I want to just rely on their outreach that they are actively working right now, and they will be out there. And I also wanted to share that we're trying to get as many of the offers out before we hear from the RAISE grant. Once we get federal funding, the approval process for the right-of-way offers gets more complicated because we have to run a number of them through the state. Right now, since we don't have federal funding, we can approve them ourselves. So we're trying to get as many of them done before we hear about that, just to keep our process going as fast as possible. So I expect more offers to be coming across my desk in the next week or two, and so that they can continue to go out and make offers to people. So I don't know if meeting in a week is going to speed anything up because they're already planning to go out there as soon as they can.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem Wall.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And just to follow up, again, a reminder that what we are adopting tonight is part of a process and putting things in motion. It's not condemning anybody's property. It is a process, and we are, as Rich has pointed out and our city manager has pointed out, I mean, we are going to be committed to working together with you, bringing you offers, negotiating those offers, and even if we don't agree on a final number, as Kinnan has pointed out previously, you have the opportunity to retain your rights through the whatever agreement that you can be signed to allow you to retain, to allow the process to continue on and still continue maintaining your rights to be able to get to a final price, a fair market value. And so we are committed to doing that. All we're adopting, would be potentially adopting tonight, is authorizing the process to get going. As has been pointed out, regardless of when we do this, we have deadlines by the end of the year that all of this needs to be done in order to maintain access to funding, or potentially increasing the costs. 15% of $25 million project is a lot of money. So we do need to move forward. We do need to keep this process going, but again, we have heard you, and we are committed to improving and maintaining best communication possible with you. For all of the business owners, I'd encourage you to reach out to and join the Mountlake Terrace Chamber of Commerce, because we are absolutely committed to working together with them, and they will help be your voice for what you need as far as business access, encouraging business, because we, as has been pointed out, we want to be business friendly. We are business friendly. We want to make sure that we're helping you increase your business opportunities here at Mountlake Terrace. So join the chamber and help work with them to help advocate for your interests with the city, because we will be very actively interested in any input that we have on those lines. And again, this is a process. All we're adopting tonight is part of that process to be able to help us continue moving forward and ultimately, at the end of the day, hopefully have a new Main Street that we all can be very proud of and excited about, that will help increase vitality for all of us here in Mountlake Terrace.
All right. Okay, so any further discussion? All right. So, hearing none, I'm going to call for the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Nay.
So that is a 5-1 vote. Thank you very much. Five-minute break? Okay. Yes.
We will return at 9:35.
Okay, we're back in session. It's 9:37. So we're going to move on to our next item, which is the review of the traffic calming methods for Safe Routes to School project. Again, with Rich Meredith.
Hi, I'm Rich Meredith, the city engineer again, and I understand when this project was presented last week, there were some questions about traffic calming in the area, so I thought I would address some of the traffic calming measures that we evaluated and how we arrived at the current design for the project. So the streets out there, here's a vicinity map. 48th is an arterial. There are stop signs controlling the side street of 216th. There's more traffic on 48th because it's an arterial. There is some traffic on 216th, but it's not as much. When this project was first developed, it was before I got here. I think that this was, gosh, how many, 3-4 years ago. The process was looked at to decide what would be the best treatments for this intersection. When it comes to traffic calming measures, part of my philosophy, and it's pretty much industry standard, is you try to keep the volumes on the arterials and not direct them or redirect them onto the side streets. So local streets, you could be a little more restrictive. Those are going to have more pedestrians and bikes and stuff on them. The arterials are going to be some of the the main response routes for emergencies. And so there's different standards of care that you would follow on this. Looking at this particular location on 48, there's a downgrade north of the intersection. So that is going to impact some of your choices when it comes to traffic control. If you try to put in a speed hump, for example, because I think some people asked about that, speed humps are effective in some places and they can be problematic in others. They do affect the emergency response times, so that's something you always want to consider. And when they're on a grade, you can sometimes get a little more of a launch on those, which is not a good thing when it comes to accidents and such. So that location on the grade there is not really a good spot for a speed hump, so that was not considered. Stop signs are something else people like to consider for traffic control. The problem with an always stop is that there's actually a lot of studies that have been done and criteria that have been developed. There's a manual called the Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices, published by the feds, that we have to follow for our traffic control devices. And they actually have a lot of great information about when it makes sense to put in an always stop. And some of the things that, from my experience, some of the things that make an always stop work are if you have basically close to the same volumes on the major street and the minor street. If you tend to have more traffic on the major street and not very many cross-street traffic, you tend to get people coasting through the stop signs, which is an accident problem in itself. We looked at this one here, and the traffic volumes are not very balanced. In addition to that, the volumes aren't high enough to meet the minimum criteria. So if we're going to follow the MUTCD, this isn't a good place for stop signs at this time. So it doesn't mean that we will not consider them in the future. We want to see if there's other traffic control devices that we can try, other treatments that can address safety in the interim. And as traffic grows in the future, we can revisit that. So looking at this intersection, some of the main concerns were pedestrian safety. This was a Safe Routes to School project because there's a documented main access through here for students. So we asked ourselves, or the people before me, but I asked it too, what do you do to improve it for pedestrians? So some of the other tools that you have in the toolbox, if you can't use a speed hump and if you can't use a stop sign, then you look at what can you do to enhance the crossing. So you can put in crosswalk stripes. That's your basic level crosswalk stripes and advanced crossing signs. If that's not enough, you want to draw more attention to it, then you can go to something with flashing yellow lights. In this case, we applied for a grant and got it approved for the rapid flashing beacons, the RRFBs they call them. These have a documented proven safety improvement history. So this is something that we can do out there, and so this is something that they sought funding for, and they got it. Another safety measure is usually putting in curb bulb out so you can shorten the crossing distance for a pedestrian. If you can reduce the amount of time that they're in the roadway, that equates to some both reduction of the time that they're in conflict, plus a curb bulb out will make them more visible. So if there happens to be a parked car or something out there, you can see the pedestrian a little further off and give the driver more of a chance to stop. So with this case, that's something else that we applied for in the grant, and we were successful in getting it. Some of the other measures that could be used are the radar feedback signs. So you've seen them around town where they tell you what your speed is. Those are effective, in my opinion, kind of in a 6 to 12 month period. That after they've been there for a while, they aren't quite as effective. And you'll notice maybe around the city, we tend to rotate them around. We have kind of a schedule and we can move them around so they maintain their peak effectiveness. As part of our grant, we asked for money to put in a pair of them out here, and we were again successful with that. So this project, while we wouldn't be able to put in the stop signs, we were able to put in RRFBs, we were able to put in the shorter crossing, and we were able to put in the radar speed feedback signs. And then the last thing we added with some of the ARPA funds was we made a sidewalk connection that wasn't there before. So recognizing that we were trying to improve the safety, now that we've made it more visible for pedestrians. Now we want more pedestrians to be able to get there. So we're making the sidewalk connection, we're shortening the crossing distance, we're putting in the additional warning devices. Right now, I think that's a great place to let's get this project built and see how it operates. And if we continue to have problems, then we would reevaluate and see what else we could do out there. But I know that if we tried to put in stop signs at this point, we'd actually have to take out the our RFBs, which would not comply with the grant. So we're kind of in this, let's build what we got the grant for, and then again, we can reevaluate later and decide if we need to make some more changes down the road. So with that, does anybody have any questions or any other traffic control measures they'd like me to chat about?
Oh, Councilmember Sandler is on.
Thank you. Let me just fix my screen here. We were extremely passionate talking about this subject when we met 2 weeks ago. And I know you said it doesn't meet the criteria for a four-way stop. I have a four-way stop down the street from my house, and it really doesn't meet the criteria then. But the neighbors for 6 years, we went to the city and we said there's accidents happening. We've lived in this neighborhood for years and years. And so we're using our data based on how many years that we have lived here. And I understand the speed bumps or the humps, but I still see cities using those. We used to meet with a fire and they would just not recommend them. But I can tell you what happens, especially on 44th, is those flashing lights. The teenagers going to high school are embarrassed to use them, so they'll run across the street instead, because it's like, I'm not carrying a flag across the street, and I don't want that light to be flashing when I'm going across. And then on 48th too, and I've known 2 people that have died on that street. Or one I went to high school with, and the other one is my next door neighbor's niece. And one was from drunk driving and one was from a heart attack. So it doesn't have to do with that road. But I'm just telling you, we're passionate about that road because we know of things that have gone on in that road. And I hope Sally is still here too. And, you know, she's talked to us about the accidents that she's gotten into. And I've mentioned many times before that some of those neighbors have come over to my house and explained that when people come around the corner where we just built the new townhomes, the sight distance there isn't very well and they can't pull out of their driveways. And so they want people to slow down. And a lot of people race on 48th. And because there isn't anything that slows them down except the bumpy road that they're going on. But I understand the need to get it done because we've been looking at this for years and years and we want to make sure it gets done. But I do think you said in the future when it gets busier, and that's something I really wanted to talk about, is doing a profile on our roads on how they're going to possibly be impacted by light rail and people, especially if we get another station, how that is going to impact our roads with people coming from Briar, Shoreline, Edmonds, and understand that a little bit better. But that will be one of the roads that they'll use instead of going down 44th. Because I know sometimes when the school is in session, I'll go down 48, so I don't have to worry about any of the traffic on 44th. But I do have concerns with that area and the sight distance, and I know we're fixing that, but I really do think that we do need something to slow down traffic or to do something in that intersection there. And I'll stop there so other people can have time.
Councilmember Murray?
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Rich. Appreciate you coming to give us an overview, and it's always helpful for me as I continue to learn, particularly about some of these areas. And I guess let me start with just framing because I have questions, and I want to name that they are not, directive at you or at, our city in particular, but I think broader concerns about the fact, that, 810, traffic fatalities in Washington State last year, right? A 33-year high. What we are doing is not working. And I think that's hard to argue with, right? Like 810 people in our state lost their life last year. And we were at PSRC last week, Representative Larson was talking about traffic deaths, and he gave me a helpful analogy as a baseball fan. You know, the number of folks in our country last year who died, in traffic fatalities, approximately the number of folks who on a good night down at T-Mobile Park would be in that facility. So, over 40,000 people. And so, and I will say it's interesting, I've had conversations with my council colleagues, my concern, with two, kids who are practicing their independence in our community is not around, violence or I don't worry about their safety, other than I worry about the fact that they may get hit by a car. That is the biggest barrier in them being able to exercise more independence and freedom in our community. And so there's not only the real impact of fatalities, there's the folks who are hurt and injured. I mean, we heard, from one of our super dedicated, regular attendees at meetings and an active part of our community about the personal impact of her being injured at this particular intersection. And then there's just the ways we limit ourselves because of the way we have designed our communities and how that means that we have to navigate them. So I guess I say all that just to frame where I am coming from. And this is not a you thing, but I guess when you say, one, you talked about this work being done 3 to 4 years ago. So that is the data that we are using to inform the decision that we are now moving forward with now, correct? Is data that is 3 to 4 years old?
Yes.
Okay. And then in terms of kind of wouldn't or could it, so you described and this is where I don't understand the regulations and how they're applied. And I think that's where I would love to better understand. When you say that there's criteria that is designed, to guide us in this work, is it that we cannot do that, or that is not the recommended course of action? I guess I want to make sure that I understand, is it a choice or is it not a choice in terms of whether we put in traffic calming features both at this particular intersection and just generally?
So the MUTCD that I spoke for, that is if you choose to put in a traffic control device, here's how you would do it. Okay. And as part of their guidance and standards, they do have standards that you have to follow. Everybody has to follow them, even private property. Those are what we look at once we've made the decision to put in a traffic control device. So when you're looking systematically, trying to decide, what's going to be the best program, that's where a lot of the data collection really comes into play. And it's unfortunate that during COVID, a lot of data wasn't being collected, and those are some of the programs that we are restarting. John Merrick, John and I have worked together for 30 years, and we work together well as a team. We built the whole traffic department over at Shoreline, so, we've got a good success rate. Shoreline's got a great program. And John he's been looking at this area. He's been collecting more data. And one of the things that we have to do this year is put together an annual traffic report. So that's why he's out there diligently counting cars and helping to update all of our information, because we'll be bringing to you our annual traffic report. And as part of that, you're going to see, what are the speeds on our streets? What are the volumes on our streets? Where are the collisions happening, and where are the ones that to help us prioritize our resources. And the more data you have, the more funding opportunities are out there. So there's all kinds of competitions for funds. There's the accessible routes, there's the safety improvements, there's the sidewalks. We're going to try and go after it all, but a lot of it stems on how well you've planned and built up your foundation to ask for this money. Now I'm kind of framing myself too here, but when it comes out to here, we are updating the data out here. And so, and we'll continue to update it just to monitor this. I'm not sure off the top of my head how long we have to have an improvement in place before we could start making modifications to it. But this is definitely an intersection of interest, and we know that we need to keep an eye on it. There may be some other improvements that we can make besides stop signs to see what's happening out there. And I know we've got some ideas. We're going to present the tip here in another 2 weeks, I think it is. And you'll hear more about some of our ideas for restriping 44th. I mean, John and I both have spent a lot of our time in Seattle. So, you know, Seattle's got some pretty progressive ways of traffic management. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they may not fit in a smaller city, and we're trying to use our best experience in that. I think I'm talking roundabout way is we're trying to apply our best judgment and our experience and the best practices out here. And those are continuing to evolve, and we're staying on top of what's the latest in the industry. And we're not done out here. We're just, this is where we are at the moment, but we're going to continue to watch it, and just like we do with some of the other roads, because there's some other roads we need to make sure we pay attention to also.
Thank you. No, and I guess I wanted to just reiterate, like, my concerns are not, I appreciate all of the work that you are both doing. I've heard lots of really positive feedback. I am excited about the transportation improvement plan. Like, I've really been waiting on a lot of these things until that process played out. But since we're having some of the conversation now, you know, I do want to ask some of the questions that are top of mind. And so I guess, you know, in relation to this specific project, what I heard, and I want to make sure that I am hearing accurately, we have a approved project in place that was utilized to secure the grant funds, utilizing a specific technology that if we do not implement that technology, which is not compatible with stop signs, that we would potentially lose out on that grant funding, or at least have to go back to the grantor to like see if we could continue with the project.
I've talked to granting agencies, and if you try to change the scope, they frown on that. So it's better to, it's a low success rate to get the scope changed.
Okay, so that is, okay, that's helpful here. So I will leave, I do want us to pay close attention to this intersection, because I think we've heard lots of feedback about it. And it's interesting, it's not an intersection I had any opinion on until, because I will tell you, I do not drive down 48th, and I do not drive down 48th actually because I have a really hard time going the speed limit on 48th. So the speed limit is 25. Like, we have a big hill, it is a straight street, there's not a lot of cars on it, not a lot of traffic. It is really easy to get going faster than I should, and so I don't take it because I don't want to speed through our community. It is much easier for me to go on 44th, where I can much more easily go the speed limit there. But I think that is indicative of, like, I hear that, like, you know, the industry continues to progress, and you guys are kind of on the, you know, ensuring that you are, you know, looking at the best practices and, you know, aligning those with our practices here internally. Like, and I will still name that, like, we are headed the wrong direction, right? And so I guess in terms of, like, I think sometimes we can see things, I think maybe to kind of, you know, talk about Councilmember Sonmore's comment, like, I think there are sometimes we can see things very clearly that maybe aren't shown by the data and maybe wouldn't be, you know, kind of where the industry is in terms of recommendations. But I guess if we want to move forward with stop signs somewhere else in the city, because we feel like that is the best thing to do collectively, and we, I guess, share that concern, like, is there, we cannot do that if it does not meet certain criteria, or is it just that is not the recommendation?
So normally when there's a safety issue, I try to find out what's the root of the problem, because I've always found, well.
And I was going to say, and as somebody who deals with people in my profession, I know that creating policies and practices that take out the opportunity for humans to make bad choices or errors is my preferred solution, right? And so, like, people are going to make mistakes, people are going to make bad choices, and so how do we, and I have that hat on oftentimes, but how do I hear in terms of how do we design our city in a way where... Oh,
it's 10 o'clock, we have to vote.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry. Okay, I'll stop. anyway, I have lots of other thoughts and questions, but I'll stop. It is very late. I appreciate the time.
We have to vote to see if we're going to extend.
Okay.
How do we do this?
Just make a motion, the discussion can continue. We just have to be able to extend past the 3-hour limit. So yeah, motion to extend to whatever time you'd like, given what's on the rest of the agenda.
Can I ask a clarifying question before we make a motion? I guess, do we have a time estimate for the remaining items on our agenda, and/or are there things that you would recommend that we move to postpone from conversation tonight?
So.
None of these will take a long time.
Let's make a motion to extend first, so we don't go past the 10 time limit, and then I'll get back to your question.
Go ahead, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Move to extend the meeting. Do we need a certain time frame, or just extend the meeting?
Extend the meeting to no later than 11 at this point.
Move to extend the meeting until no later than 11.
Second.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? We are extended.
Okay, so on the upcoming schedule, we can push the discussion about, where is it, the long-range financial sustainability plan. That's not critical, so we can do that at your work session next week because it doesn't require a vote. It's more an informational item. The last item, the late ad that we had tonight, we must do this evening.
Thank you. Do we need to make a motion to postpone that agenda item to the next meeting?
You can, but we can do that after you're concluded with this.
Okay, thank you. All right, I will wrap up. I guess just in terms of, I think one of the things I reflected on last meeting, and I guess I want to make sure that I say here with you here, is just I think technology in particular is changing how we navigate communities. And I say that as somebody who has not historically had navigation in my vehicle, and now that I have a different vehicle, that is something that's there all of the time, right? And so whereas I would typically take our main arterials, for instance, to come from this area of the city to go to the high school, I was reflecting that the GPS quicker route takes me up 48th and then takes me over, one of our smaller arterials. I wouldn't even call it an arterial anyway. So I guess just thinking about that in terms of design as well, because I think to your point about like how we're directing traffic, I actually don't think of 48th as an arterial. I think of 44th as an arterial. I think of 56th as an arterial. I think it's interesting that the 52nd part of connection point from 220th is not yellow. Does that mean that we don't think it's an arterial? Is that what that yellow means on the map that we're looking at?
I think this is not, the background map is not the roadway classification map. So,
oh, okay. All right.
Although that being said, I think the yellow roads are arterials on here, but I think that the area of traffic calming and traffic education is fascinating, obviously, for me. And I think that there will be future opportunities to discuss this further because, like I said, our goal is to get the traffic report to you by the end of the year. And so we'll have lots of times to talk about that. One last thing I wanted to mention was in the MUTCD, it specifically says you should not use stop signs for speed control. And I think that I've heard that from different people at times. And when the issue is speeding, I don't go to stop signs as the answer. I look to other solutions, which is where I need to find out kind of what the issue is, and then we can brainstorm the best way to solve that. Because if you get a couple of heads involved there, you have different perspectives, and we may come up with a better solution. I don't know.
Okay. No, I think that's a great plan and appreciate it, and appreciate that you are here and looking at those things, and hear you on this particular project. I'm excited about it. I guess I will go back to this is a huge improvement from where we have been, and I am really excited to move it forward, and I appreciate you helping to continue our education in this space, and I look forward to more of those conversations, so thank you.
And I'll be actually walking on that sidewalk, so I'm looking forward to it. What?
Okay, good.
All right. So, Councilmember Woodard.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to repeat a story because it didn't make it out of last week, whatever, and so I want to make sure you hear it from me. I appreciate that last comment about this being about speeding. I don't think that's it at all. Let's go back to the idea of volume. Now, I don't want to talk about 48th. Instead, I want to pitch this street right here, 58th. Let me begin by saying I have been in this plaza and seen people blow right through the stop sign, north, south, both directions. So I'm very much aware that it is not a deterrent. People are the problem, to be the point there. However, if we travel just further up 58th, we hit a second stop sign. My question would be for you, in a historical standpoint, to do some research on that and see whether or not the quote-unquote volume of traffic warrants a stop sign there. Because the story picks up 15 years earlier, not only were there not sidewalks to get up to that intersection, but it was just a two-way stop. And I will just say I run with a pretty smart crowd of people, and the number of times those very smart people almost died because they didn't realize, even though it's very clear, two-way stop, they would just pull right on out. And I'd be like, oh my God, right? It's like, oh, so it's again, people, training. But the point of that is there was a single-family residence right there. So 58th, I always get already established, get lost in a paper bag. So this is 58th, correct? Thank you. This is 232nd. Yep. So when we get up to 230th, there was a single-family residence on all four corners. Now it's only three corners, and on that fourth corner is a much more beautiful community there than that single-family residence there. But again, first time in my head, first time out loud, whatever, that wasn't there when the decision was made to put that stop sign in. Now, when I asked the question about how that came about, I did not like the answer, and you would definitely not like the answer. So let's again just focus on whether or not, in the moment, the volume met the criteria to put that in, because if the answer is yes or no, it's fast forward to, but look what it's doing now. And as someone who's been there for 20 years and has watched both of my kids have to traverse that, including across 56, which I do think we have really missed it there because junior high kids and elementary kids have to cross 58th. And again, man, I get lost in this so easily. 56th and 230th. Like literally the bus stops on the other side. And in the winter, I would listen to my kids say every morning it's dangerous, Dad, but what are you going to do? That bus stop's on the other side, which is not your problem. I'm just saying that whole street, this whole intersection is really interesting. But again, this one was quote unquote solved. It took a while, but now most likely 99% of the people stop, right? So there was some training. But again, it's about that volume because in the long run, we absolutely would need it now, I would think is what we're going to see, but it didn't match then. And so it's a weird way to try to conflate it here, but when we're talking about what we're already seeing as patterns, and then we're watching that area develop, Cascade View area, we literally had if I ever get to my report, we had the CPAG group last night, the comprehensive plan, so I know we're even looking to develop that. I appreciate that we'll come back to this, but I almost think we need to speed it up so people get used to it. And then when the volume's there, it's a thing already, not now I'm trying to educate that many more people, right? So again, just a bunch of thoughts there, but I do think there's some lessons here with this 230th and 58th stop sign, so.
Okay, anyone else? So we are done with this.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Do we need to take out number 9?
Yeah.
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem Wall.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Move to postpone item number 9, review request for proposal for long-range financial sustainability consultant until next week?
13th.
Until the 13th.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Was that a yes or a no? Okay.
That was an aye.
Oh, thank you. All right, so now we'll move on to number 10, which is review and vote on addendum to amendment to Snow 911 interlocal agreement with our city manager, Jeff Knighton.
Thank you, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, members of council. Small changes tonight for the interlocal agreement and our partnership with Snow 911. There are a couple of changes I'll highlight. The first is the process for selecting the governing board and members. There are a couple of smaller agencies that didn't, if you've seen some of the background memos that I provided, didn't participate as much as was expected. So they're redoing the way that they compose their board of directors. Another change is the way that the share, the financing share happens for Snow 911 and what each city pays. However, the way that they're changing it is more stable, but we don't anticipate change how much we contribute to Snow 911, or would we expect any budgetary changes as a result of that? So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Is your thing on?
Yeah.
Oh, it is, okay.
Yeah. Sorry, I might have
I
been
didn't see a
pulling
light.
away a little bit. But yeah, so we don't expect any budgetary changes as part of this, the language change in the interlocal agreement.
Any comments, questions? Okay, Mayor Pro Tem Wall.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Move to adopt the interlocal agreement, oh, wait, sorry. Yes, interlocal agreement between the city and Snow 911.
Second.
So it's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The motion carries. Next is the city manager's report.
That was just a blink of an eye. A couple things to mention tonight. First, as I mentioned to all of you earlier this week on Tuesday, unfortunately, our finance director, Janella Lewis, is resigning, and her last day will be on June 28th. She's going to join our friends right across the parking lot at Snow Isle, although her office will be within 10 minutes of her home at a different location, but hopefully we will still see her occasionally. We also, several of you met our interim HR manager, Karen Jackson, earlier this week. She's helping us out for the next few months to make sure that we stay on top of all of the changes that are occurring and all of the negotiations we're having with our bargaining partners. And I did want to note for the council and the community that the pavilion will be closed for maintenance and rebuilding of the sauna between June 17th and June 23rd. And just wanted to highlight that. So also, the next Terrace talk will be next week on Wednesday here in this room. We'll be talking about public safety. And our police department will be giving that presentation. I will be here, of course, but Pete and his command team will be leading most of that discussion and answering questions for the community. It was already mentioned earlier, but I'll mention it again. On Saturday, June 15th, we'll be having the Juneteenth celebration in partnership with the Snow Isle Library across the street, and a lot of fun events this week, or fun events at that event. And I did want to recognize really quickly Jennifer, here to my left. Earlier this week, she hosted the Chamber of Commerce board meeting on Tuesday night. She was here till about 8 o'clock. Last night, she did the board and commissions interviews, was here till about 11, and tonight it looks like she will meet or exceed that time frame. So Jennifer's been doing a lot of work and supporting us, especially at these evening events. So I'm sure she is looking forward to going to municipal clerk camp next week, where she'll earn her certification for a professional municipal clerk. Certified municipal clerk. So looking forward to that. Lastly, but not least, Marla French has been part of the Arts Commission for a number of years. She did not seek reappointment, but I thought it important to recognize her for her contributions to art in our community. With that, that's all I have. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions or comments for the city manager? Okay. Well, next and then is council liaison reports, and I'll just start, I'll just start over there with Councilmember Woodard, and then work our way this way.
Thank you, Mayor. Firstly, I don't know that it's a question for you. It's more of an expectation that we'll do something to honor Janella on her way out. Thank you, Janella, for all the work that you have done. This city has no idea how much they owe you a gratitude and a deep thank you. Moving into my actual report, on the 17th, I had the honor of joining the Ukrainian, one set of Ukrainian community here for their, I'm probably not going to say this right, Vishavanka sounds about right, day, which is a new holiday that they have created to maintain their culture as they are having their country torn apart. On the 21st, I had the honor of joining the Trax ribbon cutting, which was awesome, and if we had more time, I'd really go into that one, so just know that that was an honor and welcome to that very large community, and we look forward to your next set of community moving into Terrace Station 4. On the 22nd, I had the honor of sitting in on Snohomish County Tomorrow. They recorded it, so I'm sure Brian has already watched it, so I won't bother going into that, and it's late anyway. 26th, I found myself organizing a church service, including delivering the sermon. I just share that to show you that your council members do a lot of different things to make sure that we are connecting with our residents. On the 27th was Memorial Day. Thank you to the Legion and the service for coming in. We should have said thank you earlier to you all just for being here. But I did have the honor of participating in 3 Memorial Day services that range from 98th anniversary to 1st anniversary up and down the county. And I encourage folks, if they do not participate in Memorial Day service, you do not have to be connected to the military to show your respect. Please join us next year. On the 28th, I had the honor of going to hear the state of the county. That was awesome. I'll just leave it there. We then later showed why this county is awesome, because we had the honor of hosting Congressperson Del Bene, and I'm sure someone else will talk about that, but know those two were tied together, and what an honor to watch the state of the city and then come in and watch your city make this county even better, state of the county, and then show how we're making that happen. On the 30th, I participated in the Manufactured Homes Forum. I will just leave it at what a deeply humbling experience, and my commitment from my seat, as long as I'm in this seat, for our 3 manufactured home parks, is you will have my support and whatever that looks like. So thank you for bringing to our attention something that we can probably work on, which was that water bill and not being able to access it as a senior. I know we did not know that, and I think that you will hopefully see some movement on that. So we'll continue to try to do what we can when we can. On the 1st, I did quite a lot, so I just want to pause and always give acknowledgement to folks who are trying to make their community better, and I had the honor of working with Washington Family Engagement. The mayor and I have been with them in the past and spoken to them. They are parent leaders and kid leaders who are trying to understand systems and how to make change last. So they had their latest graduating class, and they had a bunch of their alumni come back. It was just a beautiful event. And then I also, at the end of that day, we had a second home selected for the Rampathon. So thank you again to the Master Builders Association of King and Snohomish County, but specifically to Carlisle Classic Homes. They took on an even larger project. If you remember the last one, this one was even larger. It was actually up on the 2nd floor. It's a beautiful design. And once again, giving the family back their lives and their mobility. On the 2nd, once again, I found myself inside a church, which is neither here nor there, just to say we gave a talk about the Linwood Neighborhood Center, and that's just my way of saying we would make our way back here to this group because you all need an update as well, so we can get that on the docket. Just wanted to put that out there that if that's of interest to you, we can move on that quicker. On the 3rd, just want to say what an honor it was to be here as we raised the pride flag. I thought the most interesting comment online was better late than never. And I thought to myself, oh, that's interesting. It's Monday. Did you want our city to come in on Saturday and then make them pay? And there's all these mechanisms that had to happen, which really is, again, just this idea of, I really appreciate when people participate in the process. It'd be even better if we first learn the process and then speak to it. That said, I thought it was a wonderful event. Thank you for taking the time, and I saw so many city staff out there. In case we're wondering why we didn't bring people in, is that we didn't want to make them have to come in on their day off either and just presume that they wouldn't care. That was packed by this city staff, so thank you for them for taking time out of their very busy lives to come out and do the right thing, which is to honor the coming of this month. And then my last two pieces of this, and then really probably don't need to add, but I'm going to, which is just, I think that was yesterday, the 5th. I was up at Mount Vernon to hear their state of the city, and it was just a chance for me to say how awesome ours was. Theirs was also run by their chamber, which is a reminder of just where we can go. I look forward to the day that our chamber can host our state of the city, because that's a pretty standard way to keep that connection going and making sure that you hear information sooner rather than later. And then, as I mentioned last night, we did have our second to last community, whatever, CPAC, what is that? Comprehensive Plan Advisory Group meeting, and I apologize for butchering that, but we've been together so long, we call each other friends. So that's just to say what a wonderful job they've been doing. We have one more that they will do, and then, of course, we'll be honoring them for all that work. And just another way that I want to tell people, we try to put that information in front of you. We try to get you to generate that information. Everybody on that advisory group stood up and said, I want to get involved. So it starts with that. So again, appreciate you when you're part of a process, even better when you learn how to be the process. So that's the end of my report.
Thank you. Councilwoman Sonmore?
Thank you. All I have to report is I met with the city manager last week, and a special shout out to Marla French for serving on the Arts Commission. We really appreciate her, and she brought a lot to the commission. And then next week, we have Left One and Park and Rec. And that's all I have to report.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Murray?
Thank you, Mayor. I will try to be brief given the hour. May 18th, I went to FutureWise's spring celebration. So they're an organization that helps all of us, find ways to comply with the Growth Management Act and build communities that are very much aligned with our vision that we've set for Mountlake Terrace. So it was a good opportunity, and I would just love to, we had some great kind of follow-up recognition of Alvaro Guillen, who is one of our inaugural DEI commissioners here in Mountlake Terrace. He and the organization that he works for, Connect Casino Road, were recognized for their annual, FutureWise's annual award for building livable communities. So wanted to recognize him for the important work that he's doing in our broader region, and feel really fortunate that he is a member of our community and has contributed his time and his talents, to the work that we do here. On the 21st, I went to the Tracks ribbon cutting as well, and that is just a phenomenal space. I am excited as they continue to rapidly fill the units there to all of the new members of our community that we will get to welcome, and I am looking to make friends with some of them because we got a tour of their rooftop and it is phenomenal. And so it's a beautiful building and a beautiful space, and I would love to come over as the weather gets nicer to hang out and play life-size chess on the roof. On the May 23rd, as we've had lots of conversations about traffic and safety here lately, the U.S. Department of Transportation, which is part of the Federal Highway Administration, had a webinar on setting appropriate speed limits for all road users. So that came through my email, and I was like, I'm going to go to that. So it's a webinar. I'm happy to share it if anybody wants the recording, but excited to engage in more of those conversations as we move forward with our comprehensive planning process. On the 28th, I also went to the Snohomish County update, and I think for me, one of the things that was really nice about it was just how consistent, Executive Summers' goals and messages were with I think the goals that we have set and that we talked about as part of our council retreat. And so it was neat to hear so much alignment, and I think that's, there's lots of good opportunity for working collectively as a region to support our bigger goals. Where are we at? Okay, the 28th, as Councilmember Woodard mentioned, Representative Delbene came and visited us, which was an honor. She came bearing a very large check in support of our Main Street project, which we were incredibly grateful to receive. And we had a chance to take a walking tour of all of the wonderful progress that's being made in our community. And so it was wonderful to have her here and wonderful to learn more about the work that she is doing to advocate on behalf of Mountlake Terrace and our residents here, as well as the residents across her district in Washington. On the 30th, I joined the PSRC General Assembly. I only made it for the business portion of the meeting, unfortunately, due to my work schedule that day, but it was a wonderful opportunity to come together collectively with elected officials from throughout our region. And I had a chance to, as I was walking in, Representative Larson, who represented our community for many years, and I rode up in the elevator together, so had a chance to talk with him briefly, and he made sure to reiterate that when we are done with our project over at Veterans Park, that he would love to be able to come and be part of that celebration, and so I told him absolutely. So good to see him, and it was good. There was a lot of focus on traffic safety as well as part of that conversation. And so I was sorry to miss the end, but I'm hoping somebody else will share some of the good takeaways on that. On June 3rd, was honored to have the opportunity to come and join our staff and others involved in our Pride flag raising ceremony. I thought that was just a wonderful celebration. I am heartened by the continuing progress that we make as a community in terms of really living our values of inclusivity. And, you know, I think that is in terms of both the residents who live here and our staff here at the city. And so that was a wonderful event, and appreciate all of the work that went into putting that together. And then on June 5th, so yesterday and this evening, we had interviews for boards and commissioners, and that is always an awe-inspiring process, getting to connect with all of our amazing residents, and I will sing their praises here when we make recommendations, but just very grateful that we continue to have so many people in our community who are willing to raise their hands, to share their time and their talents and their perspectives to make our community better. So that's all. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Ryan.
Thank you, Mayor. May 19th, I attended a retirement celebration for our Mountlake Terrace High School basketball coach, Nolan Sood. Then on Tuesday, I had the Arts Commission meeting. We will miss Marla French. She was a great addition and a wonderful artist for her retiring from the board and the commission. And our art show is doing submissions for artwork now, and that will end August 16th is the last day for art submissions. So if you want to submit some artwork, go online and it'll tell you how to do it. Then on Tuesday the 28th, I attended a walk of the city meeting with U.S. Congresswoman Delbene. Then that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Wall.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Real quickly, jumping back to May 7th, we had the council presidents and mayors pro tem meeting. Also, as has been mentioned before, I'm sure, State of the City. Great program, great work, by the way, staff putting that together. Great presentation. On the 9th, had our work study session here at City Council. Then, I'll come back to that in a minute. Thank you on the 22nd, Councilmember Woodard, for standing in for me on the Snohomish County Tomorrow Steering Committee meeting. Did get a great download on what happened there at our executive committee meeting, Snohomish County Tomorrow Executive Committee meeting on the 5th. Let's see, that was yesterday, I guess, wasn't it? So then 28th was Congresswoman Del Benny. We were honored to have her here in the community. On the 30th was PSRC General Assembly. On Tuesday, the 4th, I had another meeting with the council presidents and mayors pro tem, and I'm pleased to announce that we will be hosting, we've been talking a lot about regional collaboration with the South County cities, and we will be hosting later this month, hopefully. We're locking in on a date later this month to bring together the mayors and council presidents and city managers and administrators to officially start that discussion, to really make it official and make some real progress on working together and collaboration in addressing the needs of our region as in South County. Let's see, where was I? Oh, yes. So then on the 5th, had the Snohomish County Tomorrow Executive Committee meeting. Yesterday and earlier today, we had our board and commission interview team. Again, we'll talk more about that on the 20th. We'll be making our recommendations, and we'll be taking action as a council at our June 20th meeting. So we'll hear more about it all then. But yes, we have a great group. We have great people in this city, and that's just really exciting to see them. And there's just so many things that we want to be getting done, and so many people that want to get involved and doing some things to help make this a better community. It's just really exciting. More later. All right. So then earlier today, Mayor and I had our meeting with the city manager, and I think that's most of it, except that I missed a few meetings. I apologize, but I continue my mission to explore the cultures around the world. And it's always fascinating to me to see what others are doing. And every culture has room to grow, but every culture has things to offer and to learn from. And I won't talk about water features at this time, but I did want to, right? Come on. But I did want to raise another thing that it reminded me, this latest mission exploration trip, reminded me of another thing that occurs around the rest of the world, and particularly in the Middle East, Eastern Europe, Northern Africa, which is multi-generational housing. And they're forced to in many ways because they don't have the financing to be able to build homes, and communities and the planning and everything that's involved. But they build one story for the first generation, and then as they have more money, and as they grow their family, they build another story to fit their family, and another story. And so it reminded me of a couple of things. One is our need to address housing in our community and some things that we might want to take a look at as we've planned forward in our housing action strategy and plan, and as we review our comprehensive plan, and the need to address additional dwelling units is certainly one aspect of that, but also in encouraging developers to work towards and thinking about planning forward for multi-generational housing and how to make that work better as a functional feature in our communities. And that is happening in some areas. And there's something that maybe we can do there are some things that we can do to encourage that. And in particular, I've now lost my train of thought on that, but because I'm very excited about it. But I was going to say that, for those of our families that have older kids, we're seeing that naturally happen right now. I mean, kids are staying longer in their homes and with their parents. We used to do that years and years ago, but that's a new trend. So it's important for us to recognize that trend as it's happening and help plan forward, especially as we're updating our comprehensive plan forward for that and recognize that trend here in our community as well. So with that, I will rest easy and look forward to sharing more cultural experiences during my next update. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, so for my report, I'm going to just say that on the 21st of May, I attended the Trax ribbon cutting, and Trax is the third Terrace station building. It's building 3, and it has a rooftop deck. And on the 23rd, I was invited by the Brighton School to come and see their school play, which was Aladdin. And so I stopped in, and they're very, very talented. And I noticed that it's very hard to find a parking space. And then on the 28th, I attended the Economic Alliance Snohomish County Boeing Future of Flight Dave Summers update on Snohomish County, which was really great. And then later that day, I attended the Congresswoman Delbeni came and presented her check to Mountlake Terrace at our city hall, and then we walked over to Trax again, and I got to see the rooftop deck for the second time. And then later that evening, I attended the Mountlake Terrace Chamber of Commerce meeting with Congresswoman Delbeni as a guest speaker. On the 30th, I attended the PSRC General Assembly. And then, later that evening, I attended the town hall on the mobile home crisis that we're having. On the 1st of June, I attended the local Emmy Awards, and my name is in this book. I cannot, as a nominee. And, but I didn't win. We didn't win. But it was wonderful to be there. I never thought that I would ever be at any Emmy Awards or any award ceremonies like that at any level. So that was great. And people there knew that I was mayor. Some of them already knew. And on the 3rd, I came here to watch the raising of the pride flag, and I'm really, really proud that we're we're a city that raised the pride flag, but because not every city is doing that. On the 5th of June, I attended the mayor's lunch in Bothell, and so we met at McMiniman's, and mayor's lunch, this is the South County mayors, and we really do get along. It's just amazing how we just exchange ideas and ask a lot of questions. Next time I think next week or so, we're going to have the Snohomish County mayors, all of them coming to Linwood in person, because we're going to be touring their new facilities. And then last night, we had the boards and commissions interview. And this morning, I went to the Cops and Clergy meeting because Wally Webster was speaking. And again, that is our access project, which we're going to talk about at a different time. But I'm glad that he's out there getting that out to everybody. And then this afternoon, I attended the Community Transit Board meeting. And then before the meeting tonight, we interviewed more boards and commissions people. And that is the end of my report. And we're not going to make it to 11. We have new business. So next is new business. And before I ask anybody else, I just want to mention that Goodies has new ownership, and they have a produce stand. So, and apparently people have already gone to that produce stand, and it was really great. So,
I would like to use that produce stand just to highlight how well our permitting department is doing. So that produce stand went up. There had been no discussions, but after we talked with the new ownership, we made sure to get them through that process so they could open on the weekend that they wanted to open. thought that was a great effort by our community development staff to make that happen in a very short amount of time when they already have a ton of work on their plate. So just highlight that for them.
Well, I was wondering what was going on, because you just see a tent all of a sudden, and people are asking, what's that tent? And then I find out it's a produce stand, so it's a produce stand I can walk to. Okay, so new business. Anyone else? Oh. Shall we go with, is yours quick? Councilmember Murray, why don't you go first, and then we can have Woodard go next.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councilmember Woodard. I will really try to be short here. So June is Ride Transit Month. So we have light rail coming in August. So it is, I think, an exciting time to get our community more familiar with transit. TCC, it's late. Transportation Choices Coalition. It's in there somewhere if I dig hard enough. They have a really cool like transit bingo that you can do to win fun prizes this month. And they also have a pledge where you can commit to ride transit at least 5 times this month. So I made that commitment. I would love colleagues to join me if you're interested, as well as anyone else in our community who's interested. My kids and I did our first transit trip together for the month on Tuesday. We drove down to Northgate, we took the light rail downtown Seattle, and then we took the monorail up to the Seattle Center, and we went to the Storm game, and it was wonderful, and they won, and then we did the same thing in reverse, and it was a wonderful way to spend what turned out to be a beautiful Tuesday evening. And so anyhow, I would encourage folks to look for options to get familiar with transit in June. That's all I have, Mayor. Thanks.
All right, thank you. So.
Thank you, Mayor. I hope you didn't pay for that fare to the Storm game, because Climate Pledge is awesome about making sure you don't have to pay.
I also have an awesome employer who fully subsidizes my Orca card, so woo!
Ooh, outstanding. Okay. Well, shout out to Climate Pledge nonetheless. So I just wanted to keep mine simple, which is on the 18th, in the spirit of not every city is raising flags, our county, the county, Dave Summers' office, the county will be raising the Juneteenth flag on the 18th at 11 a.m., and the city of Mountlake Terrace will be represented by myself, who was invited to share a couple of words. So I will absolutely talk about what we just did today and what we did a couple years ago to honor this date. And I would have put out there as one day maybe we will raise the flag, but as it stands right now, I'm proud to have the county raise that flag for us. So that is the end of my new business.
16 more minutes.
Anyone else?
I'll come up with something.
Anyone else before I don't see her hand up. Okay, so we're going to adjourn. We're adjourned.
My hand's not up.
Good night.